welcome everybody. Thank you so much for spending your spending your afternoon with us. We are the Galactic Tribe. My name is Davon McCune, Mr. M, and we look forward to just having a wonderful time together. We are starting a new series. I am Alfonso Jones. And we have one of the artists with us who worked on the graphic novel, Stacey Robinson. So snaps up Robinson to join and share with us and do all those beautiful things. We have a wonderful lineup for you today. We have Nicolalita from Little People's Victory. We have Divine the Rapper who's gonna share a song with us. We have Tiffany, who's part of the Galactic Tribe, who's going to be sharing with us. We have the world's most creative visual artist, Edreys, is gonna stop by and show us how his art has been manifesting during this movement. Then we're gonna go and dive in. We have Stacey Robinson speaking about the comic. We'll dive into the comic, and then I am sure that there's gonna be such a conversation and that is gonna be from it. It really is reflective of our time. So again, I just thank you for joining us, and we're going to start to get into this as we're moving into. I think we're in phase 3 now. And people are starting to go back to work in New York. If you're in a different state, I don't know where you're at, but we just want to pray and send positive energy to everybody as they're trying to figure their way out, as they're going back, keeping safe distances and putting in good practices so that we don't catch COVID. And I work at Push Buffalo. We have a mutual hub. So if you have food, Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, 9 a.m. to 2 p.m., you can stop by and get some food, get supplies, whatever you need. We have very energetic volunteers and who just really love people. And we're just out there just trying to help. So if you're in need, that's on 429 Plymouth Avenue. Come check us out. And then... Ant, do you want to introduce yourself and say a few words?
Yes, absolutely. Hello, everybody. I am Anthony. I also go by ATO, Ace the Outsider. I am so excited that everybody is here today. We got people from New York. We got people from Syracuse. We got people all across the country, maybe the world, too. The way I've been marketing lately, we might have some people from overseas. So this is going to be an incredible event. Like Mr. M said, we're doing Alfonso Jones today. I got my physical copy right here. Stacey, you're going to need to sign this at some point. Yeah, and like we chose the comic before, all the things with George Floyd happened, because we knew that no matter what time it came in, it's something that's important and something that should be conversed about, because we don't really have these conversations outside of school environments or outside of, even in barbershops, we might not have these conversations either. So that's why we use the platform. That's why we have the Galactic Tribe. That's why we have the Wakanda Alliance, so we can have these conversations and build for them and take them home and share them with our kids. So it's going to be a great lineup today. All the performers are going to do really well. Genesis is in the building. Hello, what's up? Yeah, let's get it going. I'm ready.
All right, dope. So real quick, I just want to say that the book is for par on what we're going through. And so at any time, if it brings up any trauma or bad memories or things of that nature, we want to apologize and we want to hold space. If you need to work through it, or if you want to hop off, we definitely understand. But we also understand that we're in a movement and we're in a moment in history. It's never been a time where we've protested in all 50 states and cities around the globe you know, we have organizer and the community fighting, and the mayor taking some steps, and we really want to unpack this and understand it and grow in it and be able to hold our leaders, politicians, and our community organizers, you know, to their words and to their actions. So we think this is very important. So anything that comes up, please share it with us, and if you need to take a break or pause, please know that that's all right. So without further ado, from Little People's Victory, which was founded in 2017, please give it up for Nikki Rodriguez.
Woo, Nikki!
Woo! Thank you, guys. Happy to be back here. As I told Devon, you guys are stuck with me now. But I just want to give thanks to everybody that showed up in this space. And we're going to talk a little bit about grief, if my computer works. Or just wants to get rid of the entire window. Excuse me 1 minute. Technical difficulties.
Yo, good vibes. Are you alive? You know, you steady be running my mind. I need to find you right now and I tried. I gotta make sure they know that you're mine. Yo, good vibes. Are you alive? You know, you steady be running my mind. I need to find you right now and I tried. I gotta make sure they know that you're mine.
Hey, it's a little snippet from Divine the Rapper. She'll be performing later today. Woo! That girl good. Oh man, I can't wait. I can't wait.
Right.
While we're still setting up, if everybody could go to Instagram and follow us at the Wakanda Alliance. That'd be awesome. Also on Facebook, the Wakanda Alliance program. We got a blog up. Richie just did a no blog on another comic we might explore at a later time called Black. So go read that. That's about like imagining a world where all Black people, just Black people, have superpowers.
Oh, that's lit.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So I got that somewhere around here too. But yeah, that's another title that's pretty dope. It's a little more mature, so we might not explore it in this program in particular, but it's a dope comic. Richie just did an awesome blog entry. So go to our website, thegalactictribe.org. Check that out.
All right, thank you. And thank you for hanging in there with me. I don't really know what just happened. We'll roll with it. All right, so we're gonna just kind of ground in what is grief. So grief, first of all, affects people from every standpoint. So it's not just your emotional sides, but it also affects your physical, behavioral, cognitive, and spiritual levels as well. It's a reaction to loss, and it affects your ability, or it is often described as an ability to move towards acceptance of loss. It's an individual experience and can affect entire groups, systems, families, community, and cultures as well. So when we talk about grief and loss, we talk about stages and how we get through it, right? So if we focus on that one definition of it's a way to accept a loss, we really talk about, we go through these stages of denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. But the really important thing to remember about that is that these stages are not linear. They're cyclical. So you may be in an anger stage, and then you may be going through denial, anger, bargaining, and then back to denial. And there's really no timeline for that. It just kind of loops as it will. Responses to grief and loss, we see on a multitude of levels as well. So on an individual level, we see cognitive responses or our thoughts as avoidance, denial, confusion, really just starting to question our belief systems. We can become easily distracted or really focused on vengeance or just trying to get back at whoever took that person or thing away from us. And we really become preoccupied with that loss. On an emotional level, all of those feelings, we have sadness, the guilt, the anger, anxiety, loneliness, the shock, the abandonment, and really the regret of maybe your last interaction with the person, or of not holding on to it tighter, something like that. And then on a behavioral level, we really, we see a lot of actions, right? So we may have trouble sleeping, withdrawal from like social activities or friendships, or we have an overactivity, just like that just didn't happen. So now I'm just gonna work myself and just stay busy so I don't have to think about it. regression, as in maybe we were being really productive, or we were on like this trajectory of really doing things really, really well, and then we took like 5 steps back. We have decrease in concentration, inability to focus, and sometimes it'll affect our appetite as well. So we really want to focus on what collective grief is and the differences between individual grief and collective grief. So what I just went over was really a bare bones version of like what is individual grief, right? So we see that a lot when we lose somebody close to us, or when we lose something that was close to us. So that could be a loss of a relationship, that could be a loss of a friendship, or that could be a lot of things that people are talking about right now through COVID-19, just the loss of some sense of normalcy. But when we're talking about collective grief, we're really talking about things that are experienced on a community level. So these are our losses, because grief is always a loss of some sort. And since it is experienced on a community level, it's not just experienced by one person or one family. So it's experienced by an entire community, and often is what ends up sparking societal change. So it's common examples are like natural disasters or the death of a public figure. And so I gave kind of examples here, as in floods, fire, or the death of Kobe Bryant as well. Those were all examples of collective grief that we were feeling as a community. So how do we respond to that? So here's a really great quote from Brene Brown, who is a shame researcher. And it just says, "We run from grief because loss scares us, yet our hearts reach toward the grief because the broken parts want to mend." And so now I'm just kind of going to ask you guys, you can reflect vocally, you can unmute yourselves, or you can write in the chat. But I want to focus on how have we as individuals responded in our grief to COVID-19 on an individual level.
A simple thing that I've done throughout the epidemic is a simple video chat, just video chatting with people I haven't seen in a while, perhaps. Just saying, reach out just to say, hey, how you doing? Are you able to do something for money? Are you enjoying collecting that unemployment? Like, what you doing with your stimulus check? Like, I mean, just general questions to family on top of that. Like, I talked to my grandmother, who I haven't talked to in about a year. Shame on me. But, just it was good because she actually called me. I was trying to get a hold of her. I didn't have her number. It was a whole thing. But yeah, it's just something so simple.
There's an answer in the chat if you want to read that, Nikki.
I can't read the chat while I'm presenting.
Oh, okay. I was exhausted. Weekly meetings with high school friends were nice.
Okay. So yeah, as individuals, we really connect. That connection is really important, right? So we want to connect to each other. We want to connect to our friends, our family. And so we as individuals have done that through COVID-19. Shifting focus, how have we responded as a community to COVID-19?
Before we jump into community, there's one more individual. As an individual, I responded by trying to do research on the issue. It was very unbelievable.
Thank you. All right. So yeah, we educate ourselves, and we're really about connecting with each other. On a community level, how have we responded to COVID-19?
Quarantine.
Quarantine?
Mutual aid.
Say that again?
Somebody said family.
Mutual aid.
Mutual aid, yeah. So can you say a little bit more about that?
There's just a lot of people, either organizationally or just interpersonally, like supporting each other, buying food, fixing food, stepping up for each other.
Support and stepping up. Awesome.
Building more intergenerational relationships.
Oh. Building intergenerational relationships. Anything else? Is there anything coming up in the chat?
Like virtual events, since a lot of people are distancing right now, and still trying to create community, across barriers.
Yeah, so really finding ways to build community despite any kind of barriers. Awesome. How have our local or national governments responded to the COVID-19?
They put us in quarantine.
Okay. So they like built around safety measures.
Pardon me?
They mandated safety measures.
Yes.
Spend it some rent.
Say that again.
Spend it rent.
Oh yeah, they gave us they gave out money.
Mm-hmm.
They gave a stimulus check. Yeah.
They also try to support small businesses.
Great.
A lot of big businesses were taking advantage of it.
All right. So
yeah, I was about to say they made money.
Yes, they did.
They made money off of it for sure.
Largest transfer of wealth ever.
All right. So if we think of the COVID, thank you guys all for that participation. If we think of the COVID-19 crisis as collective grief, as it's been said over and over again, we've seen, everything you guys just said. So we've seen on an individual level, we've checked in on each other. We've done our own research to like inform ourselves and better educate ourselves on what's actually going on. We've come together as communities to provide mutual aid, just stepping up and supporting each other. We've built intergenerational relationships. We've really been, focusing on that connection piece and just building intentional communities despite the obstacles that are here. Our local and national governments have stepped up and provided support in terms of money, grant funding, and stimulus checks as well. What have we done for this movement?
Oh, we protested. Some people rioted it. Right. But we've done a lot for this movement in general. I guess in this specific time period, people are like still protesting and stuff like that. But this is not something that's like new. This is like an everyday thing. It should be.
So just kind of think about those same questions. So how have we responded on an individual level? Are we still checking in with each other? Are we doing our own education and research?
Yeah.
For the COVID-19?
I would say
people do it.
That individually, I'm researching. I'm sure other people are because, you kind of got to figure out what's true, what's really going on in the situation. So I would say research is definitely something that people are doing individually.
Okay.
At least me.
All right. Anyone else want to weigh in?
Yeah, I would say same. I think a lot of people are really not trusting the information that's coming from the sources they once trusted, and everyone's relying more on community now and community for not only resources but information, and then fact checking that information and trying to educate themselves not only for themselves but just for the movement in general too.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, that's big. I agree both of those points, especially where we are is recognized as the information age. It's the age of information because we have so much access to information, but having access to information isn't always having access to accurate information. And we have a lot of complications with source because sources are based on opinions, they're based on money, economics, they're based on social standing as far as racism, sexism. These are all different types of sources information can come from. So, but I think it's definitely important that we compare these sources and we talk with people and we listen, right? Just because we found something on the internet doesn't mean that we can just regurgitate it as a fact and then try to put it on everybody else. You got to be willing to listen and then compare to see what really stands out. And then do it as a community, right? This right here is what we're doing. This is a transfer of that type of information. So, and doing that in a comfortable space and doing that with people who are open to listen to you helps build for the future, for when we're looking 30 years ahead and how we're looking back on how we interact, how we share stuff on Facebook, how we argue with people on social media. Oh, we figured this stuff out now because the technology is still new. So this is the time to do it. before the AI steps in and starts taking over.
Yeah. So just to a reminder for the community level supports, we said that for COVID, we see mutual aid, people stepping up and supporting. And I just also want to add, there's a lot of funding backing that. Do we see the same in the Black Lives Matter movement?
I think that we see a lot of fake money. I think that there are some organizations that are like the biggest corporations making bank off of COVID and off of George Floyd and other people's lives. But I also think that we are seeing more people in the community who are individually contributing and actually seeing like the real community organizations on the ground that are doing good work, and they're getting more visible and more attention. So I think it's like a little bit of both.
Okay, thank you. So then on a local or national governmental level, what kind of responses have we seen?
Violence. They haven't really been supporting the movement, I wouldn't say on a national level. I can't really think of anybody in the government. Well, there are some like mayors and some senators and some there was a congressman who like went to marches and protests and stuff like that. But like I feel like for people who are in those positions, you know, thank you for, you know, putting yourself out there, but we don't need you to march with us. We need you to help us. Like they're the people who can change laws, who have like the power and the ability to help us restructure the system, and they don't want to help us in that way.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for that. Absolutely.
Yes, John, the Kente cloth. We can't forget that now.
Yes, I was just
yes. Oh my goodness. No, they did not.
Indeed.
They don't kneel. Like they can't change laws.
All right. So just a reminder, the answers that we got from that when it was pertaining to COVID was that we built quarantines, we built structures and supports to keep people safe. We were given governmental monies. Even, you know, nothing is, I'm not saying that one is right or one is wrong, or that we should follow the clear laid out plan that we did for COVID for this as well. Just kind of sparking conversation and thoughts around how we respond to each of these and how different they are. So thank you for all of your input on that. And moving forward. So how do we heal? And whose responsibility is it? So we went over individual grief and collective grief individually because they are very different. So an individual grief really focuses on, it is the individual or personal responsibility of yourself to heal, while collective grief really focuses on the collective responsibility. So with what we see a lot with individual grief is people really holding space for people in a sympathetic manner. Really, you know, oh, I'm so sorry, I can't imagine that happened to you, all of those types of responses. But then it is really up to the individual to do their own healing and come back new, right? So we have systems built in place like that. So we have bereavement periods that you can take from certain jobs that, you know, are very much like you get 2 days. Period. So it's already like this systemic thinking of this is all the space that an individual needs to heal individually. And then we don't create systems around that to help that individual. Whereas we just saw, you know, with the questions that we asked in the previous slide was, what are we doing individually on a community level, and what other types of larger supports are there to help us through this healing process? With collective grief, comes collective responsibility. So that that doesn't mean that we don't take care of ourselves. And that, you know, is also why I put that image, that self-care image, that you can't pour from an empty cup. We still have the individual responsibility to do our own mending. But we also are working in community and in collectives to be able to provide supports and spaces to be able to heal as a collective as well. So this should look familiar if you were here with us last time, and I'm probably never going to shut up about it. So these things exist on a spectrum, right? So, as I just said, sympathy versus empathy. So when we're talking about grief, we're almost always on the opposite end of the spectrum. We're always in that like pity, that sympathy, you poor thing, you're suffering. And, that this is how we look at people, versus empathy, which is like when we really build a connection to that person and their suffering, and we sit with them in that. And so that these are just acknowledging that these are very different things, and we're coming from very different points of view on that as well. That came up a lot blurrier than I wanted it to, but it says shame and fear on one side, and then empathy and connection on the other. And then we have this little thing called vulnerability kind of in the in-between. And again, it's just kind of pointing out that sympathy versus empathy is the same thing as shame and fear versus connection and empathy. So when we talked about what we needed to heal through COVID-19, what we need to heal as we move through this movement, it is connection. That is what we continue to hear over and over. We needed connection with each other. We needed connection to make change, to build change on a legislative level as well. And then the other side is a lot more of what we see in the news and what we hear and day to day is like really just the shame and the fear and like, how dare you cause a riot? And like, oh, well, I'm afraid to let my kids out of the house, things like that. So the longer that we sit in this shame and fear, the more that we see people giving sympathy and like, poor you, okay. And on the other side, when we really are trying to drive that connection and that empathy, we're really bonding with each other on a way that is much more compassionate, that holds that space intentionally, and really, it just really drives connection in general. I forgot the other piece that I was just going to say. Oh, about the vulnerability. So that none of this can exist without vulnerability. And so that is a tricky word, especially when we're talking about such a powerful movement and really healing from something that really left us feeling very raw. So how do we do it? So on an individual level, as we said before, we don't want to ignore the individual grief, which is why we go over both of those. So we mend individually, and I say mend intentionally instead of heal because words matter. And I have come to believe that healing really ignores the scarring that happens, and that scarring is necessary, and it's not ugly. So just to kind of think on that a little bit. We mend. Healing is something that we probably will never achieve in our lifetime, but it's something we always work towards. So we mend and we move forward individually. And we do that by just radically accepting who we are, understanding that for Black and Brown people, it's always more than grief. So I've heard so many different narratives of how, what we're experiencing is this collective grief, and so we need to go through this grieving process. But there, as we said ourselves, is, when we answer those questions, we saw that like individually and on a community level, we might be able to meet needs the same way we do in other situations of collective grief, but we don't have built systems to support us like that. We cannot grieve what we never had. So grief is about as a way to get through a loss, but what did we lose if we never had it to begin with? And so then collectively, we support one another. We build safe, I will say that because safe is, needs to be in quotes, spaces to be vulnerable, to have these open conversations, to really connect with each other, and work from a place of empathy, love, and that connection. And then we fight for change on every level, because as we saw and as we said ourselves, like this exists on every level, within our own lives as well. A few other things: remember that our worth is inherent, that every one of us is worthy. And I will quote my favorite singer, India Arie, on that one. And continue to move together collectively while we do our own individual work. And just all I got for you guys.
Give some snaps. Thank you, Nicolalita. That was awesome.
Yeah, DJ M in the house. All right, give it up for Nikki and Little People's victory. I am DJ M, and we about to have a real treat. One of my youth, I'm so proud of how she's grown and where her art is taking her. So if everybody can give some snaps, some shout outs to Divine, the rapper, she's about to spit it and kill it and just blow your mind. So give it up for Divine, the rapper.
Yeah, Divine.
Get it,
That's my
Divine.
youngin.
Guys. Okay, so I'm gonna be doing something a cappella. When it's to a beat, it's a rap, but right now it's gonna be a poem because it's a cappella. And I just hope y'all enjoy. That's all I really have to say. So without further ado, we way too dope and we way too hopeful, way too patient, way too focused, way too lit, way too stand up for the culture. Put your hands up because we way too dope and we way too hopeful, way too patient, way too focused, way too lit, way too stand up for the culture. Put your hands up. Look, yo, what's up? It's Divine, I see. A little brown line is the line between hate and love, and it's really not my kind of scene, but if you black, you get put there by society. Line it up, they want to see if they can buy a piece. And we got a lot of flavor. Yes, I agree. Storming villages, they had them playing hide and seek. And are they claiming that we give them anxiety? And to them, our biggest kind of sin is our skin. Everything we do with it to them, it's a trend. And it's crazy because it's ghetto when it come from within. But look, ain't nobody really trying to make amends. See, we the tribe run our documents and edit it because every time we speak aloud, we get hit with a sedative. Forced to build a nation, do you think we get credited? And they're inserting bullets in our brothers like it's medicine. Damn. What happened to not being moved? Us making communities and doing what we had to do. Raised inside a place where being black is right for being noosed, and they committed genocide and covered up our bloody roots. Damn. Our hands is bloody too. Bros killing bros, that's exactly how they want it too. Don't want us being great because that's not what we're supposed to do. It's hard to hold us back because our talents are a multitude. Because we way too dope, we way too hopeful, way too patient, way too focused, way too lit, way too stand up for the culture. Put your hands up because we way too dope and we way too hopeful, way too patient, way too focused, way too lit, way too stand up for the culture. Put your hands.
Hey.
I got your hands up. Let's see y'all. Thank you. I hope y'all enjoyed that.
Oh, I love that.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yes.
Give it up one more time for Divine, the rapper, and throw those snaps, throw those that love and all that. Divine, where can we find you at? Where can we find your music?
You can find me on Instagram at the_divine_rapper, the divine rapper, underscores at spaces if that's confusing. You can find me on Facebook at Divine Blackburn if you would like. And you can find me on SoundCloud at Divine the Rapper. And yeah.
And what about your business that you're doing?
I am making a business. It's called Divine. Okay, my tagline is Crystal Kindle Fine. I'll sell things like lock jewelry. You see, I got a lot of crystals in my hair. This is like my favorite thing. I got a couple necklaces on right now, things like that. Even individually wrapped crystals. I have all types of different kinds. So if you look up on my social media, you'll definitely be able to find some things about that.
All right, so give it to her, young leader. Out there working with her friends, using their art as their weapon, so we really have to support that and keep nurturing all those gifts and talents. And, we got to nurture with our money, with our pockets. So hit her up, buy some jewelry. I'm going to get some crystals or whatnot. And not for the hair. I ain't got none. But next up is from the tribe. Please give it up for Tiffany. She's about to drop some knowledge, and for the group, she's about to take us to the third space.
Uh-oh.
Oh, you got links tonight?
That's not funny.
It's on the schedule. It's on the schedule.
It's on the schedule. Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Tiffany Nyachae, and I love this tribe so much. I love everybody that's in it, so I'm so honored to be able to present today. I'm going to be presenting on Black women during this time and what we're thinking about, just to remind us to remember how they too are victims of police brutality, and to ensure that we all show up for those movements as well. So I'm going to share my screen now. Okay. Okay, it's shared. Okay, so first what I want us to do My computer is acting real slow, but if in the comments, wait, let's see. So you can see this Say Her Name in the comments for the Zoom. If you could list, say her name, say some women's names that you know of that has experienced police brutality. Oops. Don't cheat and look at my slides yet. Okay, let's see if I can see the chat. Oh, I can't see the chat. Oh.
So we got Sarah Bland, Rika Boyd, India Cummins, Rosemary, Breonna Taylor.
Okay, so those are some people that we know. So that's good that we know that we have those names down. And now we're going to continue. What I want us to do is, so here's some other people. Somebody already said Rekia Boyd. You can see these images. A lot of women, Black women, some of these women are also Black trans women who have been victims of police brutality. What I want us to do, what I want to share with you is I want to make sure that we understand. We see a lot of hashtags. We see a lot of, especially during this time, different movements. And sometimes we don't really understand how they were founded or why they were founded or who are the organizers behind these hashtags. So what I want to show us real quick is who is behind the Say Her Name movement, okay? Has anybody, I guess you could take off your mute, has anybody heard of the term intersectionality? I'm sure you have, but
Yes.
Yes. So can you tell us what it is, Shayla?
It's been a long time since I really got a clear definition, but basically from what I remember of how feminism and sexuality and race and all these different systems overlap and intersect, and none of them are really separate from one another. They all overlap and interact with each other.
Well, you did an awesome job for somebody that have been talked about in a long time. Exactly. It's like you don't experience one thing at one time, right? So it's not like I can say myself, okay, now I'm gonna go outside and I'm just gonna experience everything as a woman right now. Right. Then tomorrow I can say, oh, I'm gonna experience everything as a Black person, and I'm just Black, right? All of those things are happening. And so that term intersectionality that talks about the intersection of all of those identities, which then creates a unique experience. And that term was created by Dr. Kimberly Crenshaw because they were in the late 1970s, they were complaining in the law schools how they were not dealing with issues of race. And so they were trying to do these critical legal studies where they were getting a little bit more critical, but they weren't dealing with race. So that's how you got critical race theory. But then Kimberly Crenshaw was a law student at that time working up under Derek Bell when they came up with that. And she said, well, how do we, when we go before the courts and we go before the law system and we're trying to explain how Black women have a unique experience, and the courts didn't understand that. They're like, Black men are okay. We hiring Black people because we hiring Black men. Black men weren't okay, but I'm just saying, we're hiring Black people, so we're hiring Black men. We're hiring women, we're hiring white women. So what is your issue? But they needed to bring forth two issues together. So I said that together. I said that to say that this is where the Say Her Name campaign comes from. Dr. Kimberly Crenshaw is one of the founders, and you can see this website. It's also founded by the African American Policy Forum and the Center for Intersectionality and Social Policy Studies. And I'll make sure that I send out a link, maybe a Google Doc or something with these links, but I just want you to know where this term is coming from. And so we began by saying some names, and we're going to keep looking at some names to continue. Okay. So I want to make sure that we really think about how this is affecting Black women and Black girls. These women that I have listed up here, and some are girls, some are, the youngest that I have listed up here is 7 years old. Okay, being in their homes. We have women who we still find for Diana Davis in Buffalo, who we're trying to help her to get released. India Cummings, we've heard of that. But these are, you can see women being killed in their homes, just random things. Well, Corinne Gaines was actually targeted because she was an activist and she was fighting against the police. So she was attacked for that. We have Black trans women who are being killed. Now, all of these women that are listed here under the Black trans women have not necessarily been killed by the police. They've been victims of hate crimes, but we also want to say their names. And then we have women that some of you already listed, like you listed Sandra Bland, who were killed in police custody. So if we could just take a moment and just a brief moment, just to hold space in memory of these Black women and Black trans women. Okay. So I think sometimes when we talk about when we talk about Say Her Name and Black women, and we talk about the deaths, I think that's important. I think that's important that we hold space and we say that, but I also want to share with you, leave you with some hope in spite of that, and a call and a charge. So I want to, I'm going to continue. We began by saying our names, but I'm going to continue by sharing some her stories of Black women who are working, who have historically worked towards in the movement, Black women who are who continue to work, and all of them are not these big names. Some of them are like the big names that we know, and some of them are just women every day living their life that took a stand. Then we're going to move into, so what does this mean for Black girls today? What does this mean for Black girls? And I want to bring it back to Black girls. A lot of us work with Black girls in this group. And now what you saw in like the 90s, the late 90s, a lot of influx of programs for Black boys, when Black boys were really like a focus, and they still are a focus, but a lot of programming for Black girls. Well, what you're seeing now is you're seeing the same thing where everybody want to start a program for Black girls. Everybody want to start a program for Black girls, but I want us to think about how we should approach that programming. Or if you don't start a program that's specifically for Black girls, your everyday dealing with Black girls, your nieces, your daughters, your how are you, and how does this all play into that? Okay. So her stories. So her stories is used by a lot of Black women scholars, or even I would say in the Black feminist field, and they describe how Black women have fought to transform the social conditions of Black people. And they wanted to create these specific stories because a lot of times Black women were being erased from the histories from the work towards civil rights. And the same with the Say Her Name movement, how Black women are being erased from what's happening in the nation with police brutality, and even more so Black trans women. And so her stories include the history of Black women activists, and some other people describe it as Black girls' perceptions of their realities. So how are you listening to Black girls when they share what they are? But I use it when I build upon all of those definitions, and I use her stories to describe the relationship between a Black woman's or Black girl's reflection on her identity, her activism, her personal history, her interactions with others, and how this is connected to an intergenerational history of Black women, the work of Black women. And so here is let's build on our ancestors a bit. So Fannie Lou Hamer, she was just a boss, okay? Fannie Lou Hamer from Mississippi, fighting for working class women from Mississippi, fighting for voters' rights. really is a good example of the intersection between social class, Black and women, and even the ways that she wasn't able to move, and the way she was silenced just within even the Black movement, because of her being a working class woman and not having the look that they wanted. But she endured a lot. She went to the hospital for a checkup, and they tricked her, and they gave her a hysterectomy. She was arrested for trying to get people registered to vote in Mississippi. And while she was arrested in police custody, she was harassed. She was harassed while she was arrested. So she went to sexually harassed, actually. So she's went through, and she still was fighting for all of those movements. Then we have Ella Baker, who worked a lot with MLK, Martin Luther King Jr. And they worked a lot together with the civil rights movement. We have Septima Clark, who was an educator. Rosa Parks worked with her a lot before she even became famous for the bus movement, but to bring literacy to Black communities and citizen schools to teach citizenship to Black communities. And of course, the great Angela Davis, who we all know, and thank God she is still alive today, right? Because our ancestors, they're getting older. These people from this time, they leaving us, they getting older, so she's still around today. But I also want to talk about these women, and I want to bring them up because they're Black queer women, and they often get erased from our conversations about Black Lives Matter and the Black Lives Matter movement, when they are the founders of this movement and they continue to push it. Now we know once you create something, you can't control how people take it and co-opt, and we know how things get co-opted and it becomes something else. But I'm just gonna, I definitely also want to say their names. So I'm just gonna, I have the hyperlinks, but you know how this takes forever when you do hyperlinks. So I'm just gonna go here. So make sure, if you haven't, make sure while we're hashtagging Black Lives Matter that you also sign up for the updates, and that you're looking at the actual website and see. And maybe, it's not about that you have to co-sign everything. I love, I think in the last presentation, somebody was talking about when she was asking what is happening locally, and folks are saying people are researching, people are having it. I love this divergent thought in the Black community. I love that we're all thinking these different things so that we can think about what is the best, how can we get what we need. So in 2013, I'm just reading this paragraph right here. 3 radical Black organizers, Elisa Garza, Patrice Coolers, and Opa Tometi, I hope I'm saying her name right, created a Black-centered political will and movement building project called Black Lives Matter. It was in response to the acquittal of Trayvon Martin's murderer, George Zimmerman. And I think this is important because I think that as we call for more attention to Black women and Black trans women who have been killed by police, what's interesting to me is that even when Black men are killed, and even the rallying that happens and the attention that is given when Black men are killed, Black women are showing up, right? They're showing up, they're fighting as we should be. It's not like we shouldn't be showing up for Black. It's not about that. It's about, we need to be thinking about everyone. So they're showing up, right? And so a lot of these activists that I can heard stories that I'm about to share are actually women who've been on the front lines fighting for the deaths in different ways, or I'm gonna say I'm not even gonna call them all activists. I don't even think they all would call themselves that, but maybe they have resisted in very tangible ways that on behalf of Black men and Black people generally. So let's look at, okay, now I'm about to perform, okay? Why are you detaining me? Why are you detaining me? You about to lose your job. You about to lose your job. Get this thing. You about to lose your job because you are detaining me for nothing. You about to lose your job. You about to lose your job. You about to lose your job. You are detaining me for nothing. I mean, we got to give this queen a hand. Give her a hand. We done went from "We Shall Overcome" from the 60s to "You About to Lose Your Job." That's our anthem now, right? This and I think this is important, bringing it back to intersectionality, because I don't only want to show you, even when we talk about Black women or even leaders of these movements, usually we talk about the polished ones, the ones that, you know, they look respectable and they have degrees, or they have this. This is a woman resisting. She don't have no big title, right? She do now, but you know, she was resisting. And I think that we can't forget the everydayness of the daily struggle, right? Of the people who are on the front line. She was homeless. She has a son, and she was being detained by a security guard for not, and her sister is recording. And I think sometimes what we also don't pay attention to, a lot of these recordings that we get have been recorded by Black women or Black teenage girls that are risking their lives, and they get threatened after that, you know, and that is a form, even if they wouldn't necessarily call themselves activists, that's a form of resistance. You know what I mean? And so how are we also, okay. And I don't know if you remember, does anybody remember this image? This was from, this is from 2016. Aisha Evans, and Aisha Evans was in Pennsylvania. She's a nurse, and she decided, and after what happened to Alton Sterling, we remember Alton Sterling, she decided that she was now going to, she didn't want to sit and just go to work the next day, because she felt like before, when other people died, she just went to work. The next day, she decided, I'm going to go and I'm going to be a part of this. I'm going to protest. So she gets on a plane, she goes to Baton Rouge, and she goes to the protest. And this is huge to me, because this is a woman that had bills to pay, that really could have just kept going to work. And this is so powerful. You can tell the simplicity of it all. She has on a sundress, you know, standing in a sundress, protesting. And so when she was interviewed by Gayle King, and Gayle King, you know, was like, oh, so why did you do this? And what made you do this? And she's like, I'm human. And so what I did was I took some of her words from her response, and I kind of made a poem from Aisha Evans' response in that interview. I'm human, I'm a woman, I'm a mom, I'm a nurse, I'm here, we all matter. We don't have to beg to matter. We do matter. It is more than me. It is more than myself. So, okay, this is like blocking my view. So I am here. I have a responsibility to do something. I have a passion for my people. I love my people. Okay, another example of that. And so this image just always gives me strength whenever I see the power in her standing against these police officers. And this brings us to Diamond Reynolds, who recorded, she was in the car with her boyfriend, Philando Castile, and she recorded that encounter. If you remember him being killed by police officers with their 3-year-old daughter in the back. You know, and so these are the ways that, and I really wanted to highlight these women, because they're the ones we don't talk about, right? These are the everyday ways of resisting or standing alongside Black men, right? And their lives have drastically changed. Okay, I'm gonna move on. And then this brings us to Darnella Frazier, who was the 17-year-old Black girl who recorded George Floyd's death. And I really had to look and search to find an image that I felt that I wanted to show, because there's so many images of her crying, because now she's receiving death, you know, a lot of people are celebrating her, but a lot of people aren't celebrating her, right? And so these are those other forms of resistance. And so just so that I can make sure that everybody's staying with me. But, you know, when we think about saying her names, how to not erase Black women and Black girls from the conversations around police brutality, also not to erase them from the work, whether you're this big person on the national stage giving a speech, or the dailiness of it, the everyday people. You know, somebody said, I don't know who it was. I don't know if it was Tupac, but y'all hip hop people know. But somebody said something about the hood people was gonna get the revolution. I don't know. Some rapper said that. But maybe y'all know who I'm talking about. But you know, like, so that we're thinking, this is what intersectionality is about. It is about, you know, all of those different identities that put people in a vulnerable situation. So how do that put you more at risk of being discriminated against, that put you more at risk of being exploited, right? So your gender, your social class, your race, your sexuality, all of these types of things compounded. Okay, I'm getting ahead of myself. And this brings us to these Black girls, and they have, there's a white girl in there, but I'm, you know, okay. But these girls who organized, I think it was last week, the largest protest in Nashville. Okay. They're between the ages of 14 and 16, thousands and thousands of people. And so now they are also doing this work. Okay. So, and I want us to remember to know them and to know this work that they're doing. So I'm gonna bring us to this. What I want to ask you now, and I would love for people just to jump in and share, given what we've talked about so far. So we've talked about how Black girls, Black women, Black trans women are also experiencing police brutality, being killed by police. We talked about the work that has been done historically from Black women alongside these activist movements to today, everyday people, and all of this type of stuff. And I shared with you earlier about how, like, you know how everything becomes hot, like it was like hot to work with Black boys, so then you saw all these programs for Black boys, and now Black girls is the new thing. And I'm just, I want us to attend to Black girls and care about Black girls, but I'm just concerned with the way that can go. So I just want to ask people, in your right now, based on what you're thinking, what would you say that Black girls need in this moment, at this time? And what do you think Black girls need, or teenage girls, younger girls?
You asking anybody, right?
Yep, anybody.
Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, what they need love and support and information. Sometimes it's listening and sometimes it's talking. But on a long term, these young ladies are turning into women. And, you know, whatever we give them, we hope it's not just temporary, but that it helps them on the long term. So, but I definitely say love, attention, that sometimes we have to listen. I know that a lot of people are fed up with listening to yesterday, what they consider yesterday, or listening to old heads. But I just feel like, you know, sometimes you have to listen in those cases, but you do have to find the best way possible to share some information that can
2 hours
carry them further in the long run.
Yeah, so information that can carry them better in the long run, love, support, listening, right? Listening to, that's good. What else, what do other people think?
I think they need to be celebrated. Like, I think, I'm not surprised at all, but I'm just so stunned that this young Black girl was there to record the moment that just set off the whole nation. Like, literally the whole nation, all 50 states, the whole world. Like, a Black girl recorded it, Black women starting this movement, and we're the ones who aren't heard enough, but we make so much space and we really uplift so many, and yet we're seen the least, and we're heard the least, and we're celebrated the least. And given too that it's Pride Month, and remembering Marsha P. Johnson, who threw the first brick at Pride Month, and just seeing how we get so pushed back to the line and unheard and uncelebrated. It's just so heartbreaking, because like, even just as a Black woman, it's scary that you're not getting that recognition when you're just putting so much heart and soul. And the reason you're starting these movements and projects and uplifting and building the spaces, making these spaces, is because you come from a place of empathy and that experience and hurt. So just listen to Black women, and listen to them and celebrate them as much as you can. That's all I'm gonna say, because I have to go soon, but celebrate Black women.
Yes, I love the love and celebrate the contributions, celebrate the work, celebrate the daily resistance, right? And and the fact that they are showing up, that we do show up
all the time,
right? All the time. So
you celebrating this movement, you need to celebrate Black women. That's all.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I think that in Black culture we have to really explicitly talk about patriarchy and really separate it from Black culture, because I feel like there's a lot of ways that a lot of religious institutions and other groups have really institutionalized patriarchy in communities of color, like across the board, and that like we all play that out. And I think that there needs to be more of a structural understanding, the same way we ask folks to understand that in any situation, you need to think about how race impacts it. Just a lot more clarity with folks about why we do what we do, and how that relates to, Black women and women in general. And I think that it's good to do the education, but to help people understand why it's problematic to just start a trend of working with Black girls instead of actually just institutionally doing it on a daily basis, and what prevents that from being a fad that actually reinforces patriarchy and white supremacy. So I think just, also listening more to, like you said, Ella Baker, Fannie Lou Hamer, and recognizing that, Black women were the folks that drove the movement in the civil rights movement, that it wasn't a movement that just happened in Washington, D.C. or somewhere else, but it was regular, that we're not activists, just regular people who had enough. And Rosa Parks wasn't a hero. She was just a woman who went through a training program and was chosen to do that type of resistance on that particular day. And I think there's a misunderstanding that this hero culture and this savior culture, instead of a culture of training and building institutional understandings of how we relate to society and how we resist it, as opposed to just, let's tokenize Black women for a little while to make everybody else feel better about the fact their race is getting better in America.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I think, and that's why I didn't start off with saying this, but I'm coming to that point about really understanding and educating ourselves about Black feminism. I think that people hear the word feminism and they automatically think it's something, it's like white women's feminism. That's can be, not all the time, but but a lot of ways, just very me, and I want this. Whereas Black women, Black feminism really deals with love for humanity, and it does break down patriarchy and sexism and help us to understand. I mean, the Black feminist statement in the 70s by the Combahee River Collective, which was named after Harriet Tubman's the battle she led, or the charge she led in the Combahee River during the Civil War. They specifically addressed patriarchy, capitalism, all of these things, all of these sexism, and all of this all mixed together. And I think, and that's why I was intentionally choosing everyday women too, because I think that and Black feminism started with just regular women come together having some conversations. That's what that was. It was women from all different types of backgrounds coming together and doing that. And what I would like to do is I would really like to disrupt the discomfort and the resistance that not all the time that we get from some people when we try to say, hi, you know, let's remember Black women, or let's talk about Black feminism. Because I think that people need to educate themselves a bit more. And I also think that you know, they're watching you. They watch. Black girls are all around everybody. Everybody's connected to a Black woman or a Black girl, especially in our Black community. And so I was really like stuck, like which direction I wanted to go with this, because there's so many ways I could have went. But did anybody else have anything else about what you feel like Black girls need?
Okay, I'll jump in real quick. I just typed it in the chat in all caps, but I was saying that Black men need to have conversations about the strengths of Black women amongst themselves. So everything you were saying about history and what they're doing now, I think Black men need to have these conversations amongst themselves in regular like guy conversations. So barbershops, you know, there's a lot of toxic things that can circulate inside certain spaces amongst men. And I think we have to take that upon ourselves to really break those stereotypes, really break those negative trends and fix that. I think that's the way to get the conversation started. Because it's like when you're around your guys, you know, you can say whatever you want. And, you know, like I said, certain things kind of circulate. And sometimes you don't feel comfortable jumping out and saying something because it'll just disrupt the masculinity in the room, in the air, so to speak. So, but I think taking that step is a good way to translate, for them to translate that into their personal lives too. So, yeah, and there's a time for Black men to speak up during those conversations, and there's a time for Black men to take a step back and let the women say what they gotta say. So, yeah.
Can I just add something real quick to that?
Yes.
I agree with everything everyone said. I just wanted to also take this moment to uplift Black trans women in the conversation. And I think that often when we do have these conversations, that we do need to include Black trans women. Like Tiffany said earlier, there's lots of, you know, regular, everyday Black women doing amazing work, just like there's a lot of regular, everyday Black trans women doing amazing work in the community. And we just need to take the moment to like incorporate them into the conversation when it comes to Black liberation. You know, it can't happen if we're not including every single one of us. Amanda Seales says it best when she says, you know, you have to make people uncomfortable, because what happens when people get uncomfortable, they shift, right? And so even in these situations, even if it's Black men having these conversations with other Black men, having these conversations that are necessary to shift people's perspectives are very important.
Yeah, and I think we always have to ask ourselves, like, who's most vulnerable in our community? Like, who's really on the front lines of the suffering, right? And not to rank, when I say that, I'm not saying that to say, ooh, you more oppressed than me, or I'm not ranking oppressions, but I do think that there's something to be said of the fact that specifically working class Black trans women are on the front lines of a lot of this police brutality daily, you know? And so I do think, and there's something very specific about all of those intersections that make them very vulnerable. And so we have to think about that. We have to study all of that. And what I love that I didn't hear in this group, which I do sometimes hear when I have these conversations, is that nobody was like, we need to teach Black girls how to act. We need to teach Black girls, they need to cover up. They need to do this. They need to stop wearing this. And they need to stop, because here's the thing. People, that's what I hear a lot in this, and I'm glad I didn't hear that. Because we saw the same thing happen with Black boys when the trend, and it's still going on now, you know, in the late 90s, early 2000s, you see all these programs for Black boys to make them get in a bow tie and a suit, and then they won't nothing bad happen to them because they wearing bow ties and a suit, right? Y'all know those programs, right? Have you seen those programs? Those programs where it's like, no, if we teach these boys how to pull up their pants and they do this, they gonna be fine. Ain't nothing gonna happen to them. And so sometimes we get the same thing with, we're starting to see those types of things with Black girls too, now that they're getting attention. And I like what John said about, that's why it can't just be a program, right? It can't just be about these programs that we do because it's the trend, because now it's cool to say those types of things, but really thinking about how this works as a system and structurally. Okay. And so now I'm about to end, and I just want to leave you some few points. And I want to say this too. I also think that that this work and this deep interrogation of what we do with Black girls is also for Black women, because you know who's starting a lot of these programs? It is Black women that's starting a lot of these programs for Black girls. And some of us need to unlearn our own, like problematic ways of thinking about ourselves and Black girls that we then sometimes put on the children that we work with. So I'm gonna just give us some tips. Some things were already said, and then I'll be done. So firstly, how do we do this work? Considering everything, we need to engage. You need to engage in your own ongoing personal discovery, education, and deep study of the work of Black women, Black trans women, Black feminism, and her stories. This educational process will help us to process what is happening to Black girls and women, and inspire us inspire them and us to use our power to resist, advocate, and say their names. Also problematize your own potentially narrow understanding. And I speak to myself first, understandings of Black girlhood and Black trans women through critical self-reflection, and recall your stories or others' stories and realities and experiences as a Black girl, Black women, and use them to guide your work with Black girls. Provide space in your work for Black girls to tell you who they are and what they want to know. I think we also have to, we see these teen girls who are doing it. We see these artists and they're resisting, they're leading movements. So we should also listen to them and what they have to tell us. We don't have to come in and feel like we know what's best all the time, because we don't always know what's best. So seriously listen to their perspectives on how to support. Just like we don't like random communities coming into the Black community saying, oh, I'm gonna help you like this. It's the same way with girls. And I think another question that I think we should always ask ourselves, whether it's your niece, whether it's your little cousin, whether you actually work with youth, but do I empower and liberate Black girls, or do I impose onto Black girls? And remember that they shouldn't be silenced or forced to conform. But yeah, so I feel like I was all over the place because I had so much I wanted to say, but I didn't want to I just didn't want to end on Black death, because I also think that I think that we focus on Black death a lot. We need to pay attention to it, but I didn't want to end on Black death. I wanted to end on life. I wanted to include people who are living, who are doing work. And I also wanted us to think about what is our charge moving forward. Okay, I'm done.
We can all give Tiffany a round of applause.
Whoop.
Right.
Let's all remember to say her name. DJ Am in the building. I don't know if y'all know this track. Coming to Me. Very special person. Up next, showing us how to eat off art. Please give it up for Mr. Edreys Wajed. Give him some snaps, Living legend in the building.
My name is Edreys Wajed. It's a pleasure to be here. Because just off of usually engaging in things like this in group meetings and such, what I do is I try to be very present in what's being said, and instead of preparing in my mind what I'm going to say. So in saying that, I'm going to take a couple minutes to get around to what I'm here for, because I'm still digesting what Tiffany presented, man, because I hadn't considered who was on the other side of the camera in all of these incidences over the years. I just never, if I don't watch the news, but when people watch the news, people don't consider who the other journalist is, which is the person holding the camera. You see the person in front of the microphone maybe talking about the situation, but so thank you, Tiffany, for putting that into its perspective for me. And I did not know that the young lady was a teenager either. So it just made me start to think about, the trauma that she's dealing with, and being there, being present, and almost pretty much experiencing it twice, through the lens of what she was recording and being there visually seeing it in real time. So, man, it just put me in a weird space right now, but it's cool. I'll get through it. So my name is Edreys Wajed. I am a local artist, creative, a writer, performer. I do several different things that I'm not going to go into right now. I was invited here today to talk about, I guess, how I am contributing or recording or documenting the Black experience, and especially in today's time, currently as it stands. And what's happening right now for me is, it is just basically, it has kickstarted another level of intensity for me, because I had already been who I am as an artist and who I am as a creative, doing it daily. And so with my wife, we have a business called Wajed LLC, but in that business, under it, we have a platform called Eat Off Art. So Eat Off Art is like a mantra, and it's a statement, because it's the opposite of what is normally associated with artists being artists. People are very familiar with the starving artist notion. The notion of the starving artist is going back ages, hundreds of years. So you're starving artist, you're going to be a starving artist. So our idea was like, what's the opposite of that? It's an artist that's able to eat, eat off of their art. And so that's the platform that we stand on. And our whole thing is to inspire, not only to be successful ourselves in feeding our family and putting food on the table, doing the things that we have built our skill set up to support, meaning being artists and jewelers and several other things, but it's also to inspire other people to have the courage to go out and stand on what makes them unique in this world. And so that's what this time has done for me. Like, it is really just, kickstart wasn't the right word. It's catapulted. Like, it just catapulted me even deeper and further out into who I need to be, who I said that I am, and what I need to be doing. So I'm going to share a few slides with you. There aren't many. I'm going to zoom through them. For those of you that aren't familiar with the Freedom Wall, most people associate Edreys Wajed with the work that was done on the Freedom Wall in 2017. So I'll show some of those, and then I'll show a piece that's currently up on Elmwood, on Utica and Elmwood, that particularly speaks to the movement now, and so I'll just go there. Is that cool, Devon?
Yep.
All right. So let's see if I can do this photo. There we go. All right.
How could a dude so cool keep it so hot till it burns? But they gon' learn Billy, Treese, and Earl ain't playing no games. We got sons coming up fast, we some new night ones with a fit at the match. That's how it is. I'm just
yeah. It's funny you playing that, man. I haven't seen my brother L. He's on that track. I haven't seen him in, I don't know, man, months. He just pulled up to my front door like maybe 30 minutes ago out of nowhere, man. Wow. Funny. Yeah, like playing that. Yeah, we recorded that back in, that was like 2008, that song, man. It's crazy. So for those that aren't familiar, the Freedom Wall was a project which was led by the Albright Knox Art Gallery, combined with the efforts of the NFTA and the city of Buffalo. It currently exists and stands on the streets of Michigan and Ferry. And it's 300 feet long by about 14 feet tall, depending on the wall space. And what I'm showing here is, I'm showing here the pieces that were painted by myself. So you have William Wells Brown, you have Malcolm X, which is right on the corner. W.E.B. Du Bois, Frank Merriweather, who the library is named after on Jefferson. Dr. Lydia T. Wright, whose school is named after the first African-American pediatrician. We have Fannie Lou Hamer, and then we have Harriet Tubman. So these are, people often ask, which pieces I'm responsible for. All of the ones with the gold and the black and the gray are the pieces that I'm responsible for. So another thing that I've been doing in order to respond, and I guess my reaction to what's been going on currently, especially during the pandemic, which started in March, everybody knows, was I was frozen in the sense of like, I didn't know what to do. Like, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to think. I'm wondering, like, how am I going to eat? How am I going to feed my family? And with all these unknowns. So what I did was, my response, instead of being frozen and not doing anything and just being in a stage of fright and panic, we started to do these things called the happy hour on Fridays, where we brought people virtually into our living room. So I set up my own system. I set up my own setup, and I paint live for about an hour every Friday. And usually the songs that I'm painting, because I paint using music as the inspiration. So what I do is, in this happy hour, people just kind of gather, they chat, and I paint live layer after layer, and I use a song that kind of speaks to whatever I'm feeling that day, or it could be speaking towards some sort of event, something that happened. And so that is like a call and response for me. So the call would be an incident or a way that I'm feeling particularly, and then the song would speak to that. And the response would be, me creating this work live. And so it's been helpful for me in healing and being grounded. And it's also been helping other people from other people's testimony, saying that, they just enjoy watching and being able to distract them from the ails and the worries and the things that are definitely prevalent and in front of us through social media and otherwise. So these are just some of the pieces here. This is a Tribe Called Quest piece, Steve Biko. You can look up Steve Biko. You'll know his significance and importance many decades before us and what we're in currently. Biko, B-I-K-O, Steve Biko. This one is Lovely Day by Bill Withers, and this was painted right around the time when he passed. So Lovely Days, I don't think anybody can listen to that song and feel and feel blue while listening to Lovely Day. So music is able to change my mindset and my emotion. This piece is Move the Crowd, Eric B. and Rakim. So all of the three that I'm showing you out of probably the 13 pieces that I've done already. These are just three of the samples of the ones that I paint live during the quarantine thus far. So to most currently, 2 weeks ago, a friend of mine who's white, his name is Keith Harrington. We've worked on projects previously, and he was one of the people that was wondering, like, what can I do? What can I do? How can I help? How can I get involved? And so it was actually his idea. He was like, look, man, I have a building in sight. I have the technology in order to get a message up on that wall. I need your creativity and, you know, your artistry in order to collab and make it happen. So it was his brainchild, and I obviously agree. Now, the way that this is written, Black Lives Matter, definitely doesn't speak to what my work looks like. However, I felt it was necessary for me to agree to somebody who was engaged and aware of the many points and the many fingertips that need to push the positive and the right thing forward for us as Black people. So even though he's white, he's still aware, and he's aware of, you know, he has a particular skill set, and I have a particular skill set. What can we do as artists to collaborate? So this is the Black Lives Matter mural. This is temporary. It's only up in the evening. Sundown is around 8:45, 9 o'clock, and it's usually up from 9 to about 2 a.m. So it's temporary. It is not painted on there, but it's made to look like it is. So many people don't know that, which is fine. So this is, again, many projects such as this is like the direction that I'll be going during this time. Like, how can I creatively put out a message in mass out to people in areas that they can see it and be hit by it and be reminded, be informed, and maybe even be inspired through the work that I'm doing. So I'm currently in my own practice doing quite a bit. So currently in my own practice, I'm doing quite a bit, and I'm going to continue to find ways to, to contribute and to uplift and to inspire and to recognize too. I can do portraits and things of that nature, but Tiffany mentioned something yet when she was on before me, saying that Black Death, right? Like the culture of Black Death and how prominent that is too. I don't want to be an artist that continuously is painting face after face after face. I'll never be able to keep up with doing that and celebrating people post, posthumously, so to speak. So I'm trying to figure out ways that I can stay actively out in front and just contribute in a different way. I could draw portraits all day. That's not what I want to do. So as an artist, I'm still articulating visually and mentally where I fit in and how to contribute. But one thing I'm not doing is I'm not standing still. I'm definitely being active. So that's where it's at.
Dope. If we can all give it up for Edreys and his art.
Woo! Real cool.
Spread some of that love. Add some smiles to the face.
Bill Withers, baby.
Come on, DJ, you in the building. Come on. Look at those smiles. I see them smiles.
Yeah, you can't. Bill Withers, you can't help it, man.
Can't help it at all. My man Stacey smiling and drawing, sketching on the pad up there. Hey, look at them dancing. Dre, I see you. Galactic Tribe. All right, what we've been waiting for. Thank you so much. Oh, real quick, Edreys, where can they come and support you? Buy some art, hang you on the wall.
All right, not me, my work though.
Your work, sorry.
I don't know if that's for sale.
For sale.
So can I drop it in the comments in the chat?
Yes, sir.
All right, I'll drop it there. But it's real simple. eatofart.com. 3 words, eatofart.com. Everything's there. But I'll drop it. I'll drop the link in the chat. Thank y'all, man. I appreciate everybody.
Thank you. Thank you. Snaps, love, and snaps. Positive energy. All right, real quick, we about to hop into our graphic novel. I am Alfonso Jones. But real quick, we would like Mr. Stacey Robinson, who is joining us live and has been illustrating this program at the same time. If you'd like to say a few words, introduce the novel, anything that's on your heart, mind.
Yeah, so can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, so there's a number of different things I'd like to say. Thank you all. I'm so glad I'm here for this entire program. I didn't think I was gonna have time. And I'm glad I was here. I was challenged, I was frustrated, I was hurt. I'm mad as hell. I'm gonna say that, excuse me, I'm gonna say it like that. Tiffany challenged me. I work hard to remember their names and to say their names, but I don't do enough. I don't do it enough. And as I'm growing older, I think I'm becoming wiser, right? At 48, I think I'm much wiser than I was a few years ago. And I'm trying my best in this time to stay sane, to stay positive, to remember names, to not hate white people, and to use my platforms to, and I'll, you know, in this time where, we are focusing on Blackness in a particular way, I'm trying to be a better human. And I don't know if that's something, you know, I'm sharing that, but, you know, I'm trying to use my platform to make a world that's better for all of us. Yet at the same time, I will be very honest in saying that my work really explores a lot of ideas of Black nationalist spaces, right? Since the Black Panther movie came out, I've been traveling internationally, and so many of the questions were, how do we build Wakanda for everybody? And the conversation that opens up is, how do Wakandans identify, right? Wakandans don't identify as African. They don't identify as Black. They identify as Wakandan, right? Those 5 tribes make up Wakanda. And that's nationalist, right? As we're in America, as we're navigating this space, as I'm, you know, just completing a residency at Harvard, I'm thinking about things and their complexity, the weight of their complexity, and challenging my own previous ideas, and looking at the type of world that I want to leave through my art, through the literature, through my writings, through my performances, through my DJ sets. What is the world that I want to leave for my children and my grandchildren? And I'll be honest, at this moment in time, if I could go back 22 years, my son probably wouldn't be here. Not because I don't love him, but because I love him. And I feel that I am not strong enough to protect him from this world. And that shit hurts. I'm not gonna cry in front of y'all, it's coming. But I got man issues, I'm a man up. Like, that's what I'm gonna do, right? I got issues, I ain't gonna cry in front of all of y'all. I'll do that later. But I thought about this, a realization hit me the other day. For the first time in my life, I am not scared to die.
Jesus.
I might let it go.
You should be allowed to cry.
Okay.
Yeah, you good, family. Go ahead.
Bro, now's the time, man. You're good.
That's so beautiful.
A young man was just lynched in California. If I could go back, I feel like I was irresponsible in bringing children into this world. This world does not deserve my children's brilliance. I want to have, and I'm a contradiction all the time. I teach at a research institution where most of my students are white. I mean, most of my students are Asian, they're white, they're women. And I'm probably hardest on my rare Black students. I'll probably admit that. I'm a contradiction. I have to have hope in this world. If I don't have hope, idealism, a belief, hope in the future, then I have to look at myself as irresponsible for bringing children into this world. But I also look at 48, averaging out my family's life, I have another maybe 40 to 45 years on this planet. What am I going to do with that time? And that's what I'm thinking about. In this time, in this moment, I'm having conversations with myself with a certain vibrancy, I don't know, that I wasn't having 3 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago today, I moved into my new apartment. I have a beautiful lake view that I woke up to that Sunday morning. 2 weeks ago, I was traveling across the country, halfway across the country from Boston to Illinois. And I purposely did not turn on social media, did not watch the news. I was focusing on packing, solidifying my apartment, setting up everything here. I was driving across, I drove through Albany. My mom and my car was packed. My mom and my aunt convicted me and they said, you need to mail some stuff back. You can't see out of the back of your car. The man in me was like, I'm gonna do what I want. You know, I got this. Y'all talk about my business, etc. But I was convicted and I listened to them, right? I love and shout out Black women all the time because it was my great grandmother, my aunt, and my mom that got me here. But at the time of correction, I almost didn't listen to them. And I remember the weather as I was driving across the country, halfway across the country. It rained. By the time I got into Buffalo, it was raining. I couldn't even see. I'm thinking about all of these things because Black women are saving me right now in a very particular way. Black women have me self-caring. They got me exfoliating. They got me taking baths, you know, and that's a revolutionary act that's always present in the revolutions, Black self-care.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. I was like, I haven't taken a bath in years, right? Literally, I take showers, you know.
We know you clean.
Huh?
I said, we know you clean.
Well, I try to be clean now, you know, but what was interesting is there's so many things that's happening in this moment, these moments where Black women are very present in my life. My daughter isn't here though, and that's the one Black woman I need to be with me. But I think she's better with her mom right now. Why am I saying all this? Because my mind is all over the place as I'm looking at this, as I'm thinking about this, as I'm learning to listen to Black women in a very, very different way. But I'm feeling a particular way about what my place is in this moment. And what am I supposed to be doing? And I thought, and I'm going to get to I Am Alfonso Jones. I'm going to get to that. We're going to really talk about that. But you have to understand how it is to understand why I'm doing the work that I'm doing now. And I feel like I can't go out to the marches. I can't go out to the protests. Not because it's not important or because I devalue it, but because I am a stander in the, I'm a person in a crowd. But the work that I have been doing behind this desk, there's work that I'm doing right now that's invisible. Most of you will never ever see it. I've given so many job reference calls, and it's the highest unemployment rate in 100 years. I live in what is a former sundown town. If you don't know what sundown towns are, they're towns where white people control the towns to such an extent where Black people traveling through them had to be out of sight by sundown because it was open season on Black people, right? I live in a space like that. An article was just sent to me that was, hey, best places to go after the quarantine. Springfield, Illinois, Champaign, Illinois. These are former sundown towns. If you don't, if you remember the cards, the postcards that were sent out of lynchings, et cetera, 100 years ago, this is the area in which I live, right? We're 100 years post Red Summer, post the Tulsa race riots, post the Spanish flu, post the great, almost the Great Depression, post World War II. We're almost 100 years from all of these moments, and we're in the COVID, we're in the quarantine. And my best friend, one who has me exfoliating, just sent me a beautiful note. Have a beautiful day with a heart, right? Just wonderful, beautiful things that Black women are really doing for my life right now. And I'm trying to be responsible to them as well. Why am I saying all of this? Because I believe that white supremacy and racism have unfairly chosen the Black artist practice. Not what we draw, how we paint, how we draw, etc. But white supremacy has chosen my subject matter. I'm sitting here drawing a Black piece about, and it's an abstract, right? But as this piece is developing, the meaning of it is coming to me as well. And I decided to name this piece Black Opulence and the Tangibility of Black Abstraction, right? Opulent Rage and the Tangibility of Black Abstraction. And I'm looking at what we do as Black people all the time. And I'm thinking constantly, I'm thinking about Diamond Reynolds, right? Who had to film Philando Castillo's death and live on Facebook as Philando was dying, right? As he was killed. And she's reciting, you did not just kill my husband. You did not just kill him. You just kill him, with their daughter in the back seat. The composure that she had to maintain for the number of reasons that she had to do it. Why? So that she would not be killed, so that she could not be said, so it could, and her daughter, and their daughter, so that our lives, the validity of our lives could be proven, so that you could not say, well, if she maybe calmed down, if she had presented her case in this particular way, if she had not gotten loud, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Our rage is opulent. It is vibrant, it is beautiful. To the point where, if you remember a few years ago, remember the Pepsi commercial that played on a Black Lives Matters movement, where this white woman walks up to a cop and gives him a Pepsi? Let me tell you something, I ain't giving no cop no Pepsi. I'm not, that's not gonna be me. But I'm looking at this and thinking about this work that I'm making. I don't have the ability to do abstract art that has no meaning at all. Even Edreys, shouts out to Edreys, one of my favorite artists. The work that he makes is very political all the time. Why am I saying all of this? It's imperative. I cannot even leave the house because of the amount of work that's come my way in the last 2 weeks. we could argue that, debate that, or et cetera. But I believe that the best place for me is behind this desk making work. I was supposed to be there with you all right now working on a project in Buffalo, actually. I'm supposed to be there with you right now, but because of the quarantine, I'm not. But SIPA Gallery just hit me up and they want me to do a number of public art pieces in this particular time, right? And I said yes to that because Buffalo is my home. But everything has totally changed in a particular way in these last 2 weeks, but not at all. But it's totally, I believe that the struggle in a particular way has chosen what I'm supposed to be doing right now. And I feel some type of way about that. I think that will make a lot more sense as we talk about Alfonso. Hi, I'm Stacey Robinson. I'm the penciler for I Am Alfonso Jones. It came out in 2017. And almost a year, actually almost 3 years ago in October. I Am Alfonso Jones is considered the first Black Lives Matters inspired graphic novel. And it is a piece that was illustrated by myself, John Jennings, who is he is my best friend. I still call him a mentor. We worked on that book while we were in Buffalo, actually. Most of what I worked on that book while I was in Buffalo and then while I transitioned to Illinois. I drew a lot of that book in Grindhouse Cafe, right there on Allen Street. And I say that that's important because Buffalo being my home, Buffalo helped me solidify a voice, a political voice. And they supported my voice in a particular way as well. And let me explain how that project came. So people ask, well, how'd you work on this project? How this project came? John called me. John and I have a history of working as a collaborative duo called Black Kirby, where we look at the work of Jack Kirby and imagine Jack Kirby. Jack Kirby created Black Panther, if you don't know. The Avengers movies, most of those characters you see in the Avengers movies, Iron Man, Thor, the Hulk, all created by Jack Kirby, a second generation Jewish immigrant, him along with Stan Lee. We imagine Jack Kirby as a Black politicized artist making the type of work that we wanted to see in comics as we were growing up. When John was offered this opportunity to draw this book, and he called me, he was like, hey, Stacey, I got this opportunity to draw this book. I don't know if I'm gonna do that. I don't really have the time, but I wanted to pitch it to you, see, maybe if we did it together as a Black Kirby collab, a collab, I would probably definitely do it. But if you say no, we probably won't do it. And he told me the subject matter and the writer and the politics of the writer and the politics of the publisher. And for Leon Lowe is the publisher. So Leon Lowe Books is the largest publisher of books for children of color. You all need to know who Leon Lowe Books are. Go on their website, buy their books, support them. Most of the people I are, the editorial staff, the people I've been working with for the last 3 years, all of them have been women, and most of them women of color. And when we said yes to this book, we had no idea what the impact of the book would be. We just got an email 2 days ago. I believe it was 2 days ago, maybe even yesterday. I Am Alfonso Jones just went into its 7th printing. Its 7th printing. Mr. M, I don't know if I would, here's the thing. That sounds wonderful, right? I get an email every single day now that is on a new reading list. My tenure is looking incredible. I will be a solidified professor. That's wonderful. But why? You see where I'm going with that, right? Yeah, why? Like, I'm almost pissed off that my book is relevant right now. This is what I mean. This is what I'm saying with this, right? So when you read the book, when you see, you might not see a difference between 3 years ago and today when you read that book.
Right.
But you know what? I'll be honest. Let me insert some joy in the book too, because the book is filled with joy. It is. When I was drawing that book, my children, my daughter was the age of Alfonso, 15. But Alfonso is almost an exact replica of my son. My son was a theater major in high school. He was a Black geek. He is still a Black geek, a blurred, you know, bleaks and blurs. He is still that. He is still that odd, cool kid that stays in his room all day and draws, right? At 21. And when I had to do this book, and let me share about a little bit about what I was going through when I was working on the book as well. I actually had hope that white supremacy and racism, police brutality would actually stop while I was working on the book. That the universe, the cosmos would sense the work that I was doing and put it on the heart of racists to not kill us. We literally were updating. If in the back of the book, you'll see an ancestors wall. The ancestors wall is up to date to the day that we went publishing. We were literally adding names to the ancestors wall every single day until we went to press. We had to do this book because it was so. It expressed Black joy in a particular way. It expressed, but I want you to read the book and I want you to steal great ideas. That's what I want you to do. And I'm gonna share with you my process. You see how I'm making work, right? The reason why I'm showing that I'm working on an iPad, I wasn't doing this when I made the book. You don't have to have an iPad Pro. This is a $900 device. This Apple Pencil is $100. The app Procreate is $10. You can download this on your smartphone. The work that I'm making right now is about people making art very inexpensive. With very inexpensive mean they're on an affordable budget. I will say it like that. And I'm dealing with these ideas. I'm looking at this. This particular piece is about our Black rage and how beautifully vibrant it is, but it's also the tangibility of Black abstraction. And the way I'm spelling abstraction is ABXTRACTION. It's the abstract of Blackness, because I argue that Blackness is abstract, meaning that we cannot define what Blackness is in a colonial space, right? In a colonial space, whiteness has been defined, and everything outside of whiteness becomes what Blackness is. We have commandeered, we've celebrated that term, and we have a culture that we're constantly celebrating in that. But as we think about what our Blackness is, my argument is it's constantly a response to white supremacy and racism. And I don't believe that we can even define what our Blackness is as long as we live with those who oppress us. We can totally disagree with that. I'm not saying I'm right in this. But what I am saying is, I Am Alfonso Jones is one project that I had to make and move beyond to work on other projects. And the book is resurfacing again, and it's pissing me off. I'd almost rather not get paid my royalties on the book and have peace for all Black people. But with this, there are many, many opportunities that have presented themselves, and I've had to check myself and challenge myself and look at what I call my own Black privilege. I will call it that. I will call it privilege. I just came back from Harvard, y'all, seriously, right? My mentors are Cornel West and Henry Louis Gates Jr., right? Henry Louis Gates from Finding Your Roots, if you watch the PBS show Finding Your Roots. Cornel West, the orator who mentored Michael Eric Dyson and who is in the matrix, right? 2 and 3. So when you look at my mentors, for example, for the last year almost, it's those two are in popular culture Afrofuturism, right? When you look at The Watchmen on HBO and you look at The Matrix, they kind of bookmark pop culture Afrofuturism right now. They taught me a lot, and yet I walked away from Harvard with very little understanding of how to change this system. What I am thinking about a lot, though, is the differences between revolution, resistance, reform, and we have to be very careful to develop a list of demands in this moment. One of the beautiful things that's happening right now is we have, I think the COVID is I gotta be really careful how I say this. Please understand what I mean by this. In a particular way, I'm very thankful for the COVID. It's forced everyone inside. Hear what I'm saying. I'm not belittling or taking light those we've lost. I'm not doing that. But right now, the entire United States is mostly inside. They're not running from their social media. They're not running from their television. They cannot run from what we've been screaming for 400 years. For 401 years, we're in the 401st year of our time here in America since we first arrived in Virginia. The world is paying attention to what is happening in Black America. We have to be very careful to design this moment. Somebody brought up that earlier that the civil rights movement was designed, right? Like people went to training and then they went out on the front lines. John, I think you said that. And we're in a time where we have to be really critical of what we're demanding, what we're thinking about. Revolution versus reform. Revolution is a changing of a system. Reform is changing the existing system to employ some different things, right? Meaning, cameras on police uniforms is reform, right? But yet the same racist cops turn off the cameras, destroy the evidence, etc. That's reform, right? I was saying, you'll see with the work that I'm making, hopefully that they'll accept all the work that John and I are making for this project with SEPA. I feel like I'm constantly responding to this moment with frustration, with fear, with sadness, with anxiety, and with a lot of pain. I just cried in front of you. I don't cry in front of people like that, y'all. I'm like, and I'm not gonna apologize. I'm not gonna apologize for it. Seriously, y'all can hit me up. If y'all in the chat, you young people, you want to know how to make the art, I will tell you every secret I know and how to make this art and make it efficiently, as quickly as possible to get it out there. Right now, we're in a time where our IPs, our ideas, where artists are leading this revolutionary moment in a particular way. Let me give you an example. Everybody who is DJing right now, live on Facebook, IG, etc., is inspired by D-Nice and Club Quarantine, right? That's a revolutionary act.
They have Harry Potter games.
And what? I didn't hear that. Now, I'm not saying that, he was the only person to do it, etc., but the arts, and specifically the Black arts at this time, is leading this moment, right? We have to capitalize in this moment to be very creative in what we're thinking about and how we're executing it. And we have to get information out quickly. So I would encourage you all to look at the manifesto of Emory Douglas. He has a manifesto on it's called, I think it's called like Black Artist Manifesto or something like that. I would also, and it's like 11 or 12 point manifesto. You can find it, just Google it. Also read the manifesto called The Criteria for Negro Art by W.E.B. Du Bois, right? There's another manifesto you should look at, which is called the Black Speculative Art Movement Manifesto. I believe you can find that online as well. People have said that art doesn't lead a revolution, art doesn't change things. Art is leading this moment in a very particular way and inspiring people, right? If you don't believe that it does enough, then challenge that and do something greater with it. I believe that's the responsibility of all of us. Let's go more into I Am Alfonso Jones. I feel like I'm rambling, but I'll be honest with you, my mind has been all over the place. And what I'm doing right now, I'm spending most of my day on the phone talking to people and helping them get their lives in order, or figure out their next steps, or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, while I'm trying to figure out my own, while I'm reconciling this idea that I'm not scared to die. But at the same time, my summer, I'm about to take my son to the gun range to learn how to use a weapon, because I want to prepare for peace, but I truly believe that in order to prepare for peace, I have to prepare for war.
Yes.
If people break into my door, I would rather shoot them off than try to appeal to their humanity with scriptures. I'm not saying that scriptures don't have a place, but the disciples carry swords. Look it up. Jesus had to tell the disciples when they went on a particular mission not to bring their swords with them.
Peter cut somebody's ear off.
Huh?
Peter cut my man's ear off.
And you know how skilled you have to be to cut just someone's ear off? You see what I'm saying? Right? So people, we have the wrong idea of Christianity, first of all. That's another conversation. Art is my particular weapon. But I realized that I Am Alfonso Jones, I was drawing my children. And literally drawing my children. I was drawing my son, who was a theater major, as an artist, but I was drawing my daughter because she was this age of Alfonso. And I Am Alfonso Jones is even more relevant today, and maybe not, I won't say that, let me not say it's more relevant, but I wish it weren't relevant. But what I want you to extract from the book is Alfonso was a young man with hope. And what his death did is this, in that book, was the same thing that George Floyd's death is doing now. And I think that's another reason why the book is becoming, is popular again 3 years later. But I'm trying not to give away anything for those who haven't read it, but I want you to read the book and have joy in the book as well. I want you to see young people having fun. I want you to see one particular panel that I drew of Alfonso's parents dancing. That was not written in the script. I added that because there was not one panel that showed his parents together before Alfonso that showed them happy. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to show Alfonso's parents happy because Black joy matters. Yes. And Black joy is a revolutionary act, just like Black self-care, right? Pay attention to the character Danetta. Pay attention to the character Punk E. Pay attention to the character Mr. O, the teacher, the theater teacher. We have alliances that are happening right now because people cannot run from the television, they cannot run from social media. And these alliances that are happening across what we've been wanting and what we've been asking for these alliances, we're seeing. We have to be very careful to make sure that we have the right demands in place right now. That's what I'm thinking about. That's what I'm looking at. But at the same time, I can't break away from this desk because I'm able to make some of the most provocative work and the most meaningful work possibly in my life. And I feel cheated because I want to make work that means nothing at all. White artists have been able to do that. One of my favorite artists is John Cage. John Cage had a project where he literally opened the windows and let the outside atmosphere, the sounds play in a gallery space while people listen to it. If I were to do a project like that in Buffalo, y'all would call me on it. Brother, what's this? I think the people need something stronger. Y'all might not, right? But because it would, even that would be political, and I could definitely theorize it to be very political. It would be. But I feel cheated that I have to continue to make work that's about, and Tiffany was talking about, you know, not celebrating Black death. But John and I, you know what, Alfonso was the third book that we had dropped in a row that was about Black death. The first book was Kindred, Octavia Butler's Kindred graphic novel. The next book we had dropped that was The Prison Industrial Complex for Beginners. After that was I Am Alfonso Jones. Imagine when you get the call and you realize that your life has to include chronicling, documenting, aesthetically, like documenting these ideas of Black death so that we can have these wider conversations. It's unfair, right? But there are moments in Alfonso where I had to lean into, as I was working toward that particular scene, I'm really trying not to tell you anything about the book. It's really difficult. I had to find places where I could find joy to draw in the book. And I leaned on my expertise in graphic design. I tried to draw some scenes. There's a scene where Alfonso becomes a passenger on the ghost train, the ancestral train, right? That circles around New York City. And when I showed him being casted onto this train, I really tried to show this in the most beautiful way using the best of my graphic design skills as possible. The other thing I did was, you'll notice that there's a hanger in the book. There's a hanger around Alfonso's neck, right? And that's symbolic, right? But if you look at the placement of the hanger, the hook on the hanger, I forgot what part, actually there is a name of that hook and I forgot the name of that, what you call that. I actually studied the anatomy of a hanger, right, as I was drawing this. The hook is always positioned as a question mark. Did you notice that, Anthony? I don't know. You pointed, I didn't know if you noticed that. Okay.
I noticed the hanger and I felt like there was another meaning for it, but I didn't catch on to the question mark just yet.
Oh, well, you know the meaning of it. Yeah, you know the meaning of it. Yeah. Yeah, you know the meaning of it, right? There's a reason why it's a hanger, right? And what happened is Alfonso was holding a hanger at that moment.
Right.
So when he's cast onto the ghost train, his head goes through the hanger, right? And it's around his neck. When he becomes, it's around his neck. The hanger is around his neck, right? Tony Medina is an amazing, very political Afro-Latino writer, teaches at Howard University, and an amazing collaborator. Stacey Whitman, amazing, wonderful white woman editor who I'm working with for the second time with Lee and Low Books, who I thought she might be on this call. I don't think she is here, but I did invite her to give her thoughts for editing the first Black Lives Matters inspired graphic novel. There's so much I could say about this book, but it holds a particular relevancy in this time that in some ways is very different than when I drew it 3 years ago. I'm going to leave it right there. I'm sure there's so much more that I could say. I'm going to apologize. The one thing about the book that I don't like is that it's in black and white. We wanted to do it in color, but literally we would have had to print it in China, and it would have come over on literally, you know, there's that expression, a slow boat from China. Like literally it would have been on a slow boat. Like literally it would have been shipped via boat, and we would have missed the deadline, and we had to get it out by the deadline in October, and we met the deadline. But because of that, we sacrificed color. I'm hoping that, you know, well, I don't think I would go back and revisit it and make it in color, but there is a poster, and I wish I had sent that beforehand. The only image of the entire cast of Alfonso's class in color exists as a poster. And wow. It's my favorite image associated with Alfonso because his entire class is this, is a multicultural class. And it reminds me of like my children's classes. It reminds me of like it gave me hope. Like these conversations, these weighty conversations could be had amongst friends, right, in a multicultural setting. But I didn't send that image, and I'm so sorry. I will email it. Maybe you can look at it another time. I'm going to stop right there. If there are any comments, questions, or whatever, I'm sorry for rambling, but there's so many things going on right now. And I'm showing you, there's a reason why I'm zooming on my iPad. Like I'm showing you what I'm doing in the moment and how I'm thinking about it, right? And how do you articulate our rage and our beauty at the same time? I'm thinking about that. I'm not necessarily sure, but hopefully I'm about to propose this, and I shouldn't even tell y'all this, but I'm gonna do this. Y'all are family, y'all are home. I'm gonna propose another project for Buffalo Art Studios that is gonna be about the work that I'm making in this time. And it's gonna be about documenting, just like Edreys is, documenting as artists, how we're feeling, how we're surviving this moment, what are we thinking about, and how is our art responding to this? Actually, when I get off the phone, I'm about to pitch this to Alma Carrillo, Buffalo Art Studios. But I'm telling you all this, so you know, I'm telling y'all what I'm about to do because I feel like it's important to share that we are responding even when you don't see us. Most of the work I do is invisible. I'm always behind a desk responding to something that's weightier that you'll never see. But I feel like I want you to see, we're in a virtual world right now. We're in a Zoom economy. We're in all of these things. And I want you to see that even in this, that my heart is on motivating, galvanizing, and empowering our people to make a better world for tomorrow. That sounds really cliche and corny, but that's where I'm at right now. I'll be honest. I'm done rambling. Thank you for listening and understanding. It was hard to articulate this because I'm trying to figure this out as I'm going through it, like we all are, right? Any comments, thoughts, questions? Let me look at the chats.
We give some snaps, show some love.
Yeah, that's beautiful. We needed that
so much. This is definitely a safe place. And, you know, we're very progressive and we're always trying to tear down any forms and traces of toxic masculinity. So anytime you want to join us and cry, if you want me to cry with you, you know, brother.
Well, you left me hanging a few minutes ago.
Listen, bro, we got you, bro.
No, I'll be honest with y'all. Y'all, Buffalo is home for real. I was there for 3 years. I went to grad school. I was grinding it out for 2 years. You hardly saw me in 2 years. I really emerged at my thesis show. And shouts out to Shirley Verico and Alma Carrillo and so many other of the community, because it was the first time my thesis exhibition was themed around the elements of hip hop. And in that, I invited the activist community and the regular gallery patrons. You don't even have to invite to the show. They pay for the show, right? They support the gallery. They're going to be there. But the show was about us. right? That thesis exhibition. And there were like over 400 people at that opening show. And the activist community showed up and showed out. And they were able to articulate the importance of the show. I think Push Buffalo was a sponsor, I believe, I remember. And Push Buffalo showed up, and Open Buffalo showed up, and was able to articulate the importance of the show, what the show meant outside of my my voice. And that was so important because the work, listen, anytime I do work in Buffalo, it's gonna be about us. That's what it's gonna be. It's gonna be our stories, our narratives, our concerns. But I can't front, and I had this talk with DQ. I see you on there, my man. And even with Edreys, I was just offered to do a mural in Buffalo for Juneteenth. I had to call the crew. I was like, listen,
I remember.
Yo, Buffalo is home, but I don't live there now. There are artists there. Y'all are working. Y'all grinding out right there in the spot. I don't know. I need to get permission. I ain't gonna front. I need to hit y'all up. And what are your thoughts on that? And DQ and Edreys were like, yo, you need to do this. Like, yo, we recognize you as fam. When they said it, I ain't asked nobody else. Had one of them said, don't do it, I wouldn't have done it, because I know the controversy of Albright Knox calling on people, right, outside of the home, right? And though I'm Black, I don't live there anymore. I'm coming back home, y'all. I'm sorry that I'm not there with you all now. You'll see me again. I'll be there back there next summer. We're gonna grind it out. DQ, we're gonna work on some things. We've talked about that. John, I saw you hit me up on Facebook the other day. We're friends now and there. We need to have a conversation. We're gonna talk. Edreys, you know you my dude. We working on stuff.
Yes, sir.
If y'all need me or want me at Wakanda Alliance, I'm here. Yo, thank you for everything that you're doing. Any comments, thoughts, questions, anything about anything? Seriously, if I know it, you know it. I'll be happy to share it.
Listen, we ready, bro. Just be ready. That's all I can say. Just be ready. We coming. We got a lot going on, and everything's aligning itself. You know what I mean? So, yeah, man, I love you. We all love you, and I love everybody on this joint right now, man. I love y'all. This is a community. This is us. This is what we do. We're not gonna stop. We're not gonna slow down by no chick. You know what I'm saying? Only Allah is gonna slow us down. So listen, we coming. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Everybody, just thank you. Just so that's it. Everybody else, say whatever they gotta say.
Thank you all for being here, y'all. So I see people, there's some people standing outside, some people walking, they're getting their steps in, you know, and you all have been patient for a long time. I thank you. Thank you for being here, seriously.
We got any other questions, comments, thoughts you can add to the conversation? You know, this is us.
I'm just gonna close out, Davon, man, by just saying, Stacey, man, that was, again, so when I came on, I saw Tiffany, man, you know, when she was presenting, man, a full course meal. Thought I was full, you know. I had to make room for what you were delivering on that buffet, man. It was rich, brother. Rich, man. Rich, nutritional. And it actually settled me, man, because I've been really unsettled lately, man. Like I haven't been able to have my feet under me. So I just, as I was saying, I just continue to kind of create and kind of, you know, feel what it feels like to put these ice skates on, so to speak, man. But you just grounded me, man. So thank you. I'm gonna hit you up. I'm gonna hit you up on the
well, you know, I mean, thank you. I appreciate it. One of the things I've been talking about and thinking about lately is you know, one day I'm gonna get married again, maybe. I don't know. So, but Edreys, I already told Edreys and Alexis that Alexa, right?
Yeah, Alexa.
Oh, okay, like the thing, right?
Yeah, like the Alexa.
Okay,
yeah.
All right. That I'm clocking them because they're making it work, right? And I'm watching my friends and my folks, because I wasn't, I want to be a better human. So I want to make sure I get it right. You know what I'm saying? And I'm clocking people who get it right. And Edreys, I'm always clocking y'all because I learned so much from y'all. You're one of my favorite artists, and when I met you, when my cousin is Renata Tony, y'all. So if y'all know her from Virtual Tony, that's my cousin. Like
Tony Boy Brank.
Real, like her dad was my great uncle, but I just, there's so much that I learned from the Buffalo community, and I'm constantly being fed. So hey, what's going on? Right, love you. Oh, thank y'all so much. I was just talking about you and talking about how I'm clocking y'all so I could do better. I'm a re-up. You know what I'm saying? Not anytime soon, but right. But thank you all for having me, embracing me, letting me come back home, letting me continue to work, but in the same way, holding me accountable, because I know I answer to y'all. Like if I come back to Buffalo, y'all gonna be there. And if I'm off, y'all gonna let me know that I'm off, right? So and I'm talking to everyone here, right? You invited me into your space. I needed this. 48-year-old man cried in front of y'all, and I needed this space. So I cannot thank you all enough. Please hit me up. Drea, you were asking about payment info. Y'all can't pay me anything. My funds are stacking nice right now, to the point where I'm really focusing on paying it forward and supporting cash apps and other things, right? So that's how one of the ways in which I'm looking at and using my privilege. I'll use that in air quotes. How I'm thinking about that. How can I support other people so that they can be great, right? I have a platform. I'm trying to share the most positive information. I'm trying my best not to show the Black Death on my page, but to keep my Facebook page inspirational. I've kind of maxed it out at 5,000, quote friends. But I'm trying to, how do I use that page to be inspirational? Y'all can hit me up on Instagram. It's Stacey A. Robinson, STACEY Robinson. I'm going on live again. Usually it's in the middle of the night. Why? I have no idea.
No
you
comment.
Already know.
No comment. No
Yeah.
comment.
You know what, bro? Yeah, I got words for you. I'm on there and I'm drawing, I'm talking, I'm working through this stuff. Y'all hit me up, I'm on there. Ask me questions, y'all, about how I'm making this work. Free apps, inexpensive materials. I will show you. If I know it, you know it. Think about it like that. That's why I'm a college professor. Shouts out to the educators who teach K through 12, because I could not do that. That's very powerful. Tiffany, when I get back, we definitely got to talk about doing something at Buff State. Are you still at Buff State?
I just got a job at Penn State University, but I'm only 4 hours away. And Wakanda Alliance, I love y'all, and I'm still gonna be working in Buffalo, so don't even do me like that.
Yeah. Oh, we already know.
I'm still gonna be here.
Right, be heard, right. So here's the thing, as Ice Cube, was it Ice Cube who said, he said something along the lines of, there are more of us, and he said, why, he did say, why there are more of us in the pen than in college, right? And that metaphor of, there are more of us in the state pen than at Penn State, right?
Yeah.
So, is that where you said Penn State is where you're going?
Yeah, Penn State and State College. So rural area, I need my Buffalo, and y'all, I just got into the Wakanda Alliance like last year, but I feel like these my brothers forever, and
come on, man.
They just I just love them so much, and they have really pushed this community is so special, like it just pushed me so much. Like you when you get in a university, like you just don't, like this is the heartbeat of our work. Like this is the heartbeat of our work. Yeah. And I just learned from y'all so much. So I'm just thankful to be a part of State. So yes, at Penn State, but I'm Buffalo, 4 hours away. I will be coming back and doing all of that and working.
Yeah.
I see my man Lavender. I see you, bro.
Peace. Thank you for inviting me, man. I'm so feeling kind of bad that I'm just coming in at the very end of the talk because the words that are being shared in the community are profound, and this is truly inspiring from one artist to the other, and just seeing the family here already created. So it's a beautiful blessing to step into this virtual space and to connect with you all. I would love to just return to a comment that you made about how do you articulate or illustrate joy and rage. You know, I think that's a very, very interesting thing to return to and meditate on, because within my art right now, I'm really focused on understanding joy as being a form of resistance. Because if you fight the beast long enough, sometimes you become the beast. You fight the monster long enough, you become that. And there's something about Black joy that has really pissed off white supremacy, you know, and has really weakened white supremacy. So that's just going to give me something to meditate on. If you wanted to speak about it more, I would love to hear, you know, what you're coming up with.
I'm figuring it out.
Right.
In all honesty, I'm figuring it out. I'm working on the most incredible work that I've made in my life because of the quarantine, and I don't want to waste this moment. And I could get real corny, and I just did a keynote at UB's art department graduation, and I went through the first verse of Eminem's "Lose Yourself," okay. Right? As one of my favorite, most inspirational songs. But the chorus, you know, is that you better lose yourself in the movement, the moment. You own it. You better never let it go. You only get one shot. Do not miss this chance to blow. This opportunity comes once in a lifetime. And he opens up the song by talking about how scared he is, right? And he goes into, you know, there's vomit on his sweater already, mom's spaghetti. He's nervous, but on the surface, he looks calm and ready to drop bombs. But he keeps on forgetting what he wrote down. The whole crowd goes so loud. He opens his mouth, but the words won't come out, right? And I mean, if you look at this is old school M. This is when M was like, yo, M, right? And then there's this moment where he goes, up, snap back to reality. Up, there goes gravity, right? When the reality snapped back in, then the floating stopped as well. The weightlessness stopped. And then he was in the moment, right? And there's something beautiful about this moment that we need to make sure that we capture, because I'll go back. I want to remind you all of this. We are 100 years from Red Summer. We are 100 years from the Tulsa race riots. We are 100 years from the First World War. Right, we are 100 years from the Spanish flu almost. We're 100 years from the Great Depression and the highest unemployment rate in American history, right? But yet we're also almost 100. What came out of that? The Harlem Renaissance came out of that as well. The arts bubbled in that moment, right? And don't hold on to the exact 100 years as that thing, because it's a number of things that was happening at the time. But now is the time to lean into creativity. Dre has been doing live concerts, and every time I catch her, I'm sharing it. And she's at more. I mean, it's been incredible to watch that. Even Dre, your daughter did a live concert, right? And it was beautiful. And the arts is responding in this very particular way. We have to capitalize on this. I don't necessarily have anything really profound to say. I'll be honest with you, because I'm figuring it out too. And I'm bringing my toys to the party, and I'm like, oh, these are the toys I got. Y'all want to play? Oh, you got some toys? Oh, you got the dope transformer. Oh, I want that one. You know, well, I got this GoBot. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? So I'm bringing my toys. Like, I think it's a collective conversation that we need to be having in all of this right now. Like, I need y'all to tell me, because as I was coming back here and as I was looking at this beautiful lake view and this beautiful sunrise that I have every morning, I was convicted. I'm like, what is my in this moment? And cosmos, spirit, the Holy Spirit, God, creator, was like, the movement and the people will let you know.
For sure.
Right? And in this, literally they let me know because they wouldn't let me get off the phone. They wouldn't let me get away from these gallery talks and et cetera, right? And that's not, to answer that, I don't really have a profound answer because I'm literally trying to figure it out to the best.
I'm gonna DM you on Instagram just to check out 2 pieces that I think would really be medicinal. And one is about Basquiat, Jean-Michel, and the other one is called There Are Black People in the Future. And I'm going to send both of those to you. Just peep them and
thank you.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say to this conversation about art and revolution, it resonates with me a lot because I'm an artist. I used to do hip hop, poetry, draw my own comics. But I became an organizer because I didn't feel right making art in the conditions where people are dying and suffering. But also my art is like the way in which we play with possibility, and all forms of organizing are about calling into consciousness contradiction. Like that's what Martin Luther King said. The purpose of direct action is to create a crisis in the mind of the observer where they're seeing, the Lincoln Memorial and 300,000 Black people who are suffering. And they're seeing the symbols of like this contradiction. So when you talk about your contradictions in your art, to me, highlighting those contradictions of also our emotions. Like we can't feel joy without feeling some rage and some pain. So while I think we need to step back from just fetishizing Black death, I do think like it's important that we highlight the contradictions, especially even of Black communities, of like the way in which we are able to live, love, celebrate, and create the most beautiful art in the world, partially because that's the way we process our conditions. But the white world, and this is so evident in hip hop, will only promote those when they lack the balance, right? When it's just the fetishization. So to me, like our resistance is don't just ignore the pain for the sake of ignoring the pain, but what is the complete story we're telling about how that all works together? And what is the story we're telling about the future and possibility? Because Black people are trained. Part of white supremacy trains us, we ain't shit, we're never gonna be shit. And the only way that we can be shit is by accepting white money and white accolades. And so to me, like professionalism is the most powerful form of white supremacy because it's invisible. It's accepted as a fact. Like if you say you're racist because I'm not professional, like most even people of color don't process things that way, even if they may feel that. And so when we talk about art, the whole way that they funneled hip hop into a profit-making model for social conditioning around gang culture happened because of the money reward system. And the way the money reward system drove some people who'd never seen actual hip hop to think that hip hop was that lack of contradiction of just the negatives of ghettos and without the political statements. And we watched a generation of revolutionary artists get shut down and replaced by shiny suits and by what we now know as hip hop. And so to me, art is what stretches our minds so that revolution can be possible, because we have to believe it's possible before we can do it. And if we don't believe that it's possible for us to express our own rage without someone judging us for how profitable it could be, we're never going to be able to believe that we can take down these systems and these structures because we have to take them down within ourselves first. So I really appreciate all artists because I think art is a form of revolution. I think anytime Black people express their unapologetic feelings, it is a form of revolution. And I think that what's wrong with the past 30 or 40 years is that people took the tactics of Martin and Malcolm way too seriously and didn't learn enough about Adel Baker and Fannie Lou Hamer and the training and the institutionalization and all the things that really made shit happen. They didn't learn those things. We just looked at some dudes in suits speaking at Harvard, and we thought that that's what the movement was. And I love what Tiffany showed before, because there are 3 queer Black women that are leading Black Lives Matter, and that are stretching our imaginations for what's possible. If you said defund the police 3 weeks ago, people would have said you out your rabbit ass mind. But now we have mayors saying it. And to me, there's an art to that. So I really think that the way that we stretch and art allows us to process a world that could exist but doesn't is actually the most important thing, because if we don't continue that work, our revolution will become reform, because we can only imagine the reformation of what we see, and art allows us to see something far beyond that and to start work backwards in reality. So I feel like we actually need more artists. We need folks like yourself to be producing, and we also need folks to be saying, just because you can't sell your art because of these standards doesn't mean that your form of expression is art. So draw, sing, like do whatever you do, but like do it without that thought in the back of your mind that all my peeps are gonna laugh at me because I don't look like what the white world or the corporate world has told me what art is. And to me, that's what damages youth, and even in my personal experience, me the most, is being told that there's artists and there's not artists, as opposed to there's some folks that have some talents, but we all have the ability to create through processing our emotions. And when we limit that, that's when we get to the point where we can't, where we're afraid of our own rage, we're afraid of our own feelings. And so to me, like, art is just like the root of all this. And we really need to start having more conversations about the relationship between art and revolution, and how to bring art to more people's lives who are denying themselves art because they don't think they're good enough.
I also would like to say, not to add on to that brilliance of John, but I just wanted to bring one little point that you talked about contradictions, and I write a lot. A lot of my writing, I'm always writing from a place of contradictions, like, because I feel like that's what holds me. That's what pushes me, is I'm always thinking about, like, what am I saying versus because I'll say this. I know that white supremacy has its imprints on me. You know, it has it's in us. We've been around it. We've played in some ways. I've learned the system. I've played by the rules in particular ways. And I would like us to do more of that work, because I feel like it's so extreme. It's like you're either and actually I have a friend, we're working on this piece about even with like respectability politics, it's either like you're either respectable or you're liberated for the revolution. But there's some people, especially when we had these intergenerational conversations, like we were talking about our mothers and how they worry about us. They worry about how vocal we are. They worry about how we say certain things, and we're not afraid to say certain things, but they're not like, they're not necessarily fearful. They still revolutionary. So what is that? What is this in-between space that some of our elders are in? I don't think all of them are like way over here or way over here, but and how do we process that and how we move forward? And so you know, when I was working with my friend about it, she was like, yeah, and she said, so what I do is, my mother has fear about how I'm just being unapologetically myself, I redirect her. You know, like, how do we redirect? And I think, like, even within ourselves, or even these conversations, that's why I really appreciate this space, because I feel like a lot of people have different strategies and different perspectives on what we should do, but at the heart of it, we all want to see good happen for Black folks. And I think that you know, even when I was talking about that work with Black girls and stuff, you know, a lot of this is I wrote a piece about being a Black woman, and I'm fighting the same battles as I'm doing my Black girls. And in some ways I'm being Black feminist, and in some ways I'm making them do the status quo. So I had to re-look at myself. I had to interrogate myself, interrogate the programming, and why am I subscribing to that? And so I like the discussion. I like the discussion of joy and pain. I think it goes back to the beginning with where I don't want to say your name, Nicole, where she talked about grief, right? And how do we process all of this grief, and we're just bombarded with Black death, but then we're also trying to have joy and all of these things. Sometimes I feel like my social media page, I look schizophrenic, because one moment I'm saying, and I'm like, this is bad. And now I'm like, hey, I watched this goofy show. It's like I'm always like going from one extreme to the next extreme, because I'm just trying to keep myself together. So I do think, you know, I don't know, I'm all over the place, but that's what I was thinking.
I just want to uplift, thank you, Tiffany, what you had said, and John too, about like not feeling good enough to consider yourself an artist, and then going back to kind of what I always preach about, that like we are in the midst of trying to unlearn all of this shame that is constantly being taught at us, and is that just ingrained in our being. And so that when we talk about how do we move towards like more of a connection, and moving towards like the more ability to build and to create, you know, the world that we can see through art and all of that, it is really about like having that vulnerability piece that we talked about in the beginning, right? So that in between of that shame and that fear was really that vulnerability piece, in order to be able to get to the connection and the empathy, and just as true like celebration and all of that this exists on a spectrum, right? And so the in between of that is really learning how to be safely vulnerable, and that like sometimes it doesn't feel safe. What is safety in vulnerability, I think, is also a very interesting conversation, but that like all of these things really do connect. So just to kind of uplift that as well, and thank you both for uplifting those things.
I want to just say something. I think that I'm thinking about Toni Morrison, and I'm thinking about how she teaches us. She taught us how not to live in the white gaze, and I think it's just important to name that, because when we talk about creating art, who determines whether or not it's art? Who determines a standard for that art, and who determines how or whether or not we should profit from said art, and if so, by what standards and in what ways and for how long? And I think that when we have those discussions, it's important to identify that all of those discussions are directly attached to the white gaze. And if we're going to be, this is why Afrofuturism is so necessary and important, because it allows us to reimagine and recreate and redesign, like Stacey said, the word design. I love that word, because we have the opportunity to design what we want our world to look like. And actually we're going back to what our world once looked like, you know? And I think I wanted to mention like our first community is our family. I tell my children that every day. Like when I leave my house, I write them notes, and I said, listen, remember that your family is your first community. When one of my sons draws something, we all sit around in a circle and we all praise him for his beautiful art. We support him. We tell him how wonderful it is. We tell him what we see. And he's like, oh, wow, I didn't know you know, I wasn't thinking that, but I like that perspective. And then we talk about it. And then she just started, because of, you know, with COVID, all my children are home now. She never drew before. She draws every day now. And now she's been exploring different aesthetics, you know, going from pencil to crayons to acrylic paint to just all kind of stuff. And now I'm watching my other son, who's been an artist, or, you know, he's aware of his art. I'm watching him lift her up, you know, and they're sharing tools with each other and they're supporting one another. And I just want to say that we are, you know, in the discussion of community, you know, and we're talking about Black people, we have to like take a family approach to that, you know? And I think that when we're talking about each other's art, it's so important for us to uplift each other's art despite these contradictions and despite the emotional, you know, ups and downs. You know, like for me, I've always felt bad because, you know, for my first 3 albums, it just sounded like I was crying the whole time, but I was crying because I was carrying so much as a Black woman, as a Black mother, and as an empath, and just as an artist, I was carrying so much. So I was crying for the first 3 albums, you know? And now, like, as I'm healing, I'm able to like create different music and go a little higher, you know what I mean? But I'm just learning not to even judge myself. But even when I was writing songs to my people, it was just like, I still had the white gaze in mind. And to me, what I love about I just discovered Lavender Freddie, DQ. Man, I listened to your whole, everything on that link, every single song twice last night. Whoa!
Thank you.
Yo, who is this? Like, I feel I haven't been able to write a song in like 4 months. I haven't been able to write. I haven't been able to sit and just play the piano. And now, like, I can't wait to go set up my computer today because of you. You did that for me. You did that. You gave me that back. You know what I mean? And I'm excited because I have some songs that's kind of like what I think is left because of what people are used to Drea doing. You know, I think they're so left. But listening to your music made me feel like it's okay. I can explore that other side, and I can explore different ways to express myself and different ways to express my rage and even my disappointment with my own people. Like, I've been mad at my own people for all these little discussions that's happening right now in the community, and us criticizing how we organize, and us criticizing how we express, and us criticizing like how we stand up for each other or not standing up for each other. You know, it's hurt me. And just even not feeling like I can even express that as a healer, people call me, but I'm just like, I don't want to be a healer right now. I'm mad at y'all. But just be able to say that, we're saying it from a place of love. Like, if I get mad at my brother, I get mad at my sister, mad at one of my children because of something, but being able to express the truth in love and having that truth and that rawness, like, and that realness just received as love. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I feel like I'm all over the place now, but I wanted to just name that what can help us artists heal and to be able to express freely is to do it for ourselves first, just as expression, without thinking about how we're going to profit from it. But also, if I'm approaching it like I'm performing for my family. You know what I'm saying? Like, I have my kids get up and it's like we have talent shows and art shows for each other. But if we approach it like that, like I'm doing a concert for y'all, like I want y'all to come and I want y'all to hear it. And I want, let me know what you think as family, but not as like people critiquing my art. You know what I'm saying?
Wow. Where does that leave us? Well, first and foremost, thank you so much for just offering your attention to the expression, and just everything that you shared also creates a sort of loop that feeds me in return, to know that the sounds and the vibrations are out there. I think it is very important that we do allow ourselves to explore the labyrinth of self, to allow ourselves to explore our full emotional geography. Like, we are worlds unto ourselves. There are places that we haven't even met ourselves in yet, and to deprive yourself of that human experience that your spirit is driving back home. It's time for us to rise and shine. It's time for us to liberate ourselves from the colonial infection that has plagued our perception and keeps us in that white gaze. We need to decolonize the cosmos. We need to decolonize our language. We need to decolonize just pretty much everything. And the thing that I believe I need to overthrow is just the shit that they put in me, you know? And yeah, and there's freedom and health and a new kind of indigenousness where I feel I am living with this experience, living in this world, but with it, instead of trying to be so afraid of the wilderness within my heart. There is a wilderness in this civility that I'm trying to unleash. And yeah, I'm going to do it by any means necessary. You know, I want to be free. I want to be free. And
we're gonna make it. We're gonna make it happen. We're gonna make it reality.
All right. That's all I got to say right now.
Hey, word. Listen, I'm downtown right now, y'all. I don't know if y'all can see me, hear me, but I just got off the microphone, so I just came downtown. So what we're gonna do in the midst of all this,
You having a hard time hearing you.
So, yeah, I will still be checking in, you know. So I'm gonna hand it over to Dave.
DQ, we can't hear you.
All I heard was we're gonna hand it over to Davon.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
All right. Wow. You know, when the spirit moves, you know, within this moment, I think even today, within where this moment is in our history and where we stand and where we're allowing ourselves to be open and learning more about ourselves through each other. This wasn't planned. We are way over time. I'm actually running up against. I got a virtual therapy session that I'm running closely up against. So I'm gonna start that up 5 or 10 minutes late, and that's all right because, you know, this is therapy. This is nourishing. This is us being a community. This is I think the embodiment of, you know, a statement that I heard and I believe, which is the answer for community is within community. So within each and every one of us, you know, and I think points that John has said about being afraid to use our voice as an artist, about the inherent shame that has been given to us, placed upon us, that has been systematic and just wants us to be quiet and to play our roles, you know. And so these spaces, we come together. So I just want to, again, go through and thank everybody who shared their voice. And Genesis, we gonna get you on next time. I'm so sorry we didn't get to hear your music, but Nikki, thank you so much. Divine, she's not on, but a youth who was out protesting, and actually during we had a mic check before everybody got on. You know, we had a very good conversation about what some of her friends are trying to do and the direction that they want to go. And I'm trying to help bridge that gap so they can hear more conversations like this and be able to not just follow, but trailblaze in their own ways. Edreys, thank you so much. Not on here, but being able to share and take time with us. Tiffany, you know, really allowing us to think at different depths and levels, you know, because it's so much more than just saying her name or hearing about her story, but especially for us as men, how do we unpack the ways that we have consciously or unconsciously, you know, leaned into patriarchy and toxic masculinity, And so really making us look. And then Stacey, the passion, the vulnerability, you know, like again, being able to share that with us and take us through your mind, take us through the moment of where you're at and how you're thinking, and allowing us to process with you and to learn with you. And then to everybody else that's been on the call, you know, let's just keep supporting, keep loving each other. You know, I was having conversations. A lot of people in the tribe, we work with we're organizers. We help, we're out in the community, feeding people, loving people, handing out masks, protesting literally, you know, and all those good things. But, you know, we're playing chess and checkers. You know, we need people in the streets and we need people's at home, and we playing Chinese checkers and all of the different games, and, you know, and as we come together, we work to solidify more demands, and also within it, I think be intentional on succession planning and how do we keep this going and not just live in this moment, but how do we make this moment last for 50, 100 years? You know, we are all doing this together. So peace and love, everybody. And I'm just so blessed and honored to have each and every one of you in my life and on here. John Bono, shout out to John. He had a great idea about doing a craft night, inspiration night, where we come and share talents or watch each other draw or have conversations, get some wine, you know what I'm saying? You know, if you down with 420, get some 420, you know what I'm saying? And be able to do all of these things together and grow. So stay in tune. And June 27th is our next Wakanda Alliance. We will have a presentation on Juneteenth, although I know everybody that's on this call right now is very aware, but we do want to add that. And next week we will actually jump into our graphic novel and knock out the first few chapters. So thank you, everybody. Peace and love. Enjoy, be safe, be blessed. Call some family members, some friends you haven't seen in a while, just to tell them that you love them and that you care for them, you know, and let's keep these conversations growing.
Yeah. Real quick, everyone, there's a occupation of Niagara Square going on right now in support of the release of Deanna Davis, who we all consider a political prisoner. She was shot by live rounds at a protest, was taken to ECMC, and as soon as she was in stable condition, to the holding center. We know that 30 people have died there under Tim Howard's watch, and we know that every day that she stays there is a risk of her life. So if you have the time, privilege, and space, come down to Niagara Square and join us down there.
Yep. And just so you guys know, of course, our social media is up. This conversation will be posted to our YouTube. We have a YouTube now, so the video will be up. I posted additional links to everybody's work in the Facebook Live. The Facebook Live will be up until I decide to take it down, which will probably be never. So other links are in there. So yeah, so frequent that. And then of course our website, thegalactictribe.org, is where you'll find the rest of our content. So just throw that in there.
Hey Anthony, would you mind would you mind saving the chat and like throwing it in somewhere? So that
oh yes, save the chat.
I'll make sure I save the chat.
Yeah, Devon could do that. So
thank you.
Yeah, the chat will be saved. Everything that's been done today will be saved for us to consume later. So yeah, and thank you from just me personally. Thank you guys also for coming out and Devon for not cutting the conversation short. We didn't want it to end. No, we just had to let these things flow because this was important. This is very well needed, especially with the times that we're in right now. So I'm not going to repeat what anybody else said, but of course, thank you for making this what it is, because this is the future. This is what we do. This is, this has so much potential. It's going to reach worldwide. You know what I'm saying? We got people from all different types of places from different states. So before we know it, it'll be worldwide. So thank you all again.
I have a quick question. If any of you know somebody, preferably Black or a person of color, that needs a job as a high school science teacher, please reach out to me.
In the Buffalo area?
In Buffalo, yeah. It's at a private school and they probably gonna be the only Black person, so they need to also have another community. because so they don't die there, you know. So if you please let me know soon, because somebody reached out to me to ask.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome.
All right, everybody. Stay safe.